Have you ever wondered if true transformation could happen, not while grinding through the day, but while you sleep? What if I told you that the hours you spend in bed each night could be the most powerful part of your personal growth? That while your body rests, your mind could be absorbing timeless wisdom, guidance so deep and steady, it reshapes the way you think, respond, and live. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about a quiet revolution in your subconscious, because the truth is, your mind never truly turns off. While you sleep, it continues to process thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. And what you feed it before you drift off determines what it reinforces and what it transforms. Most people go to bed with mental clutter, worries from the day, regrets from the past, anxieties about the future, and unknowingly they train their minds to stay reactive, scattered and unfocused. But what if you replaced that noise with ancient clarity? What if, instead of restlessness, you filled your mind with the insights of the Stoics, thinkers who mastered the art of calm, strength, and purpose? For the next 4 hours, you'll hear the distilled essence of Stoic philosophy, the kind of wisdom that forged emperors, endured hardship, and inspired unshakable resilience. As your conscious mind fades into rest, your subconscious will be absorbing principles that can rewire your response to life's chaos. This is not just passive listening, it's intentional transformation. These lessons will help you detach from what you cannot control, find strength in discomfort, and cultivate a mindset that turns obstacles into opportunities, even in your sleep. So, as the world slows down and your body settles, allow your mind to awaken to something greater. Because real growth doesn't just happen in daylight, it happens in silence, in stillness, in the sacred space between wakefulness and dreams. Let the wisdom begin. Imagine what it would feel like to live without being dependent on anything or anyone for your emotional stability. Imagine being able to maintain your peace without erupting in anger, without losing control, and without letting someone's words or actions have the power to shatter your mood. It may sound impossible, doesn't it? But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. What I want to share with you will completely shift the way you view life, not through magic, and certainly not through shallow, positive thinking, but through practical wisdom. This is the same kind of wisdom used by the great Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, who faced life's storms without ever letting go of their calm. Think back to the last time you got upset. Maybe someone disrespected you, broke your trust. Or maybe it was something as simple as heavy traffic that triggered your frustration. What if I told you that all that anger you felt was actually a choice? Yes, a choice. And if you take to heart what I'm about to teach you, you'll find yourself no longer reacting in those same old ways. But there's a secret, a core principle that shifts everything. In this video, I'm going to walk you through that principle step by step. But before we dive in, I want you to take one small but powerful action. Go down to the comment section and write, "I will never again get angry at anything or anyone." This single act marks the beginning of a real transformation. It's the moment you commit, not to me, but to yourself. So let's begin. The first strategy is to accept the flow of life. Life is always moving, like a river with its rises and falls, moments of serenity and moments of storm. The Stoics teach us that when we fight against what's already happening, when we resist the inevitable, we only cause ourselves unnecessary suffering. Why is that? Because resistance places you in a battle you've already lost. On the other hand, acceptance allows you to embrace life as it is, not as you wish it were. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means recognizing that while you may not have control over external circumstances, you always have control over how you respond and what actions you take. When you fully embrace this mindset, you stop burdening yourself with frustrations that don't serve you. Picture yourself facing an unexpected problem. You can waste energy wondering, "Why me?" Or you can shift your focus to, "What can I do right now?" Acceptance offers mental clarity, helping you make better decisions and freeing you from emotional suffering. It also involves recognizing that everything in life is temporary. Neither happiness nor sadness lasts forever. This deeper understanding helps you savor the good times without clinging to them, and approach the difficult times knowing they too shall pass. To live in the flow of life is to find peace amid change, understanding that you always have the power to choose how you move forward. The second strategy is to stop judging others. Judging people is like carrying around a heavy backpack filled with stones that don't belong to you. The Stoics remind us that most of our judgments are not really about other people. They're reflections of our own unmet expectations, insecurities, or misunderstandings. Every time you criticize or label someone, you're stepping away from the path of your own personal growth. Think about it. Someone does something that annoys or confuses you. Instead of rushing to judge, pause and ask yourself, do I really know their full story? Do I know what struggles they're facing internally? Most likely, you don't. And adopting this perspective allows you to respond with empathy rather than criticism. Letting go of judgment doesn't mean you excuse harmful behavior. It means you understand that people's actions say more about them than they do about you. This shift in perspective not only brings emotional relief, but also improves your relationships. And here's something powerful. When you stop judging others, you also let go of the fear of being judged yourself. The weight of constantly seeking approval lifts, and with that freedom comes inner peace. Rather than spending your energy criticizing others, use that energy to reflect on how you can grow and improve. We are all imperfect. We are all learning. And when you choose compassion over criticism, you contribute to a more understanding world and release yourself from emotional burdens you don't need to carry. It's in this act of letting go that you find true serenity and clarity to focus on what really matters. Before we continue, I'd truly appreciate it if you could like and share this video so it can reach and help even more people. And if you don't want to miss out on future insights like this one, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Now let's move to the third strategy. Control your mind. Your mind can be your strongest ally or your worst enemy. It all depends on how you train it. The Stoics deeply understood this. Everything begins in the mind. What you think shapes how you feel, and eventually how you act. If you don't take the reins of your own thoughts, your mind will quickly become overrun with distractions, anxieties, and negativity that dominate your experience. Controlling your mind doesn't mean trying to forcefully block out every unwanted thought. It means learning to guide them. One essential practice is mindful observation. When a negative thought comes up, don't feed it, don't merge with it. Step back, observe it without attachment, and let it pass like a cloud in the sky. Meditation is a powerful way to strengthen this skill. Just a few minutes a day focusing on your breath or silently repeating a calming phrase can build your ability to remain steady in difficult situations. This simple habit enhances your mental strength, allowing you to stay grounded even when life throws challenges your way. By learning to observe your thoughts without being controlled by them, You gradually develop a deeper inner peace. You no longer react impulsively. You respond with awareness. And that is the essence of true emotional mastery. This journey is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about choosing understanding over anger, peace over judgment, and awareness over reactivity. The more you live by these principles, the more freedom you will experience, not just from others, but from your own internal storms. And that, my friend, is how you begin to live with real strength and serenity. Facing challenging situations while learning to train your mind to focus on what truly matters helps you avoid distractions and boosts your productivity. Another key principle from Stoic philosophy is the importance of questioning your thoughts. Not everything that runs through your mind is a reflection of truth. When you catch yourself expecting the worst or worrying about things outside of your control, take a step back and ask yourself, is this thought helping me or harming me? More often than not, you'll discover that you can replace that thought with one that is more constructive and positive. When you gain control over your mind, you also take command of your emotions and reactions. Regardless of what's happening around you, you will always have the power to remain calm and stay focused. Remember, mastering your mind is the foundational step to mastering your life. Another powerful strategy is to let go of the illusion of a perfect world. The world isn't perfect, and expecting it to be will only lead to constant frustration. The Stoics understood that mistakes, setbacks, and difficulties are not only inevitable, but an essential part of human existence. When you stop resisting this truth, you unlock a deep and endless reservoir of peace and clarity. Picture a moment when someone makes a mistake that negatively affects you. Your initial response might be anger or disappointment. But what if you saw that mistake instead as a chance to practice patience and compassion? This shift in perception doesn't just lighten your emotional burden, it also deepens and strengthens your relationships. Accepting imperfection also involves surrendering the need to control everything. No one has the power to eliminate every problem or ensure that things always go according to plan. Rather than wasting energy trying to change what cannot be changed, focus on what you can control, your mindset and your choices. Acceptance does not mean giving up or settling. It means choosing to improve yourself and your world without the unrealistic expectation that everything must be flawless. The real lesson is in finding peace amidst imperfection, both in others and within yourself. When you embrace this mindset, you free yourself from chronic frustration and the stress of impossible standards. In its place, you gain the ability to enjoy the present and meet life's challenges with wisdom and composure. Another transformative Stoic strategy is to take full responsibility for your emotions. Your feelings are not caused by other people or external circumstances. They arise directly from how you interpret and react to those situations. This Stoic teaching is powerful because it hands control of your emotional life back to you. Instead of placing blame on others or events, it encourages self-reflection and personal responsibility. Imagine someone says something hurtful to you. In that moment, you have two choices. You can let their words disturb your peace and react with anger or sadness, or you can recognize that their opinion doesn't define your worth or control your inner calm. The key is to remember that no one can make you feel a certain way without your permission. Owning your emotions also involves letting go of the need for outside validation. Often, our negative feelings stem from unmet expectations. We want others to behave in specific ways or meet certain standards. But when you realize that those expectations are yours alone and not obligations for others to fulfill, you liberate yourself from unnecessary disappointment. This doesn't mean you should suppress how you feel. Instead, it's about understanding your emotions and managing them in a healthier way. If you're feeling frustrated rather than blaming someone else, ask yourself, what thought or belief is fueling this emotion? This act of self-inquiry helps you uncover and challenge the internal narratives that are affecting your mood. When you take ownership of your emotions, you become the author of your inner experience. No matter what's happening outside of you, you always hold the power to choose your response. Practicing this daily doesn't just bring inner peace, it also improves the quality of your relationships and allows for deeper emotional connection. Never forget, your emotional well-being is your own responsibility. The final strategy is to master the art of not reacting. Not every situation in life demands an immediate response. In today's world, we're often expected to react quickly, to reply, to act, to make decisions without pause. But true strength lies in the ability to wait, to breathe, to pause. Practicing the pause, a brief but mighty moment before you speak or act, is a valuable tool. It helps you reclaim control over your emotions and actions. When you're provoked by criticism, disagreement, or a difficult situation, your first impulse may come from raw emotion. Acting on that impulse can lead to misunderstandings, regrets, or escalation. On the other hand, if you pause, you give yourself the space to assess the situation with clarity. You quiet the emotional noise and choose a response rooted in wisdom. The art of not reacting doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing your emotions. Instead, it means giving them room to be acknowledged and understood before you respond. This habit nurtures patience, self-control, and inner wisdom. It transforms your words and actions into tools that build and uplift, rather than weapons that harm or destroy. Taking that pause also communicates a quiet strength to those around you. It shows that you are not easily manipulated or provoked. It demonstrates that your peace is not up for grabs. When you demonstrate that you're not easily manipulated and can stay grounded even in difficult or high-pressure situations, you're revealing a deep level of emotional maturity and inner resilience. It's a powerful sign that you know who you are and that you can remain centered no matter what's happening around you. Keep in mind that you don't always have to defend yourself, explain your actions, or respond to every provocation. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than any argument. It can be the most profound and impactful response. By learning to choose your words and your battles wisely, you can completely transform how you relate to others and how you perceive life itself. Cultivating the ability to pause before reacting gives you the space to access your higher self, the version of you that responds with wisdom instead of impulse. Within that pause lies the strength to act from clarity, and in that clarity, true power is found. Strategy 7 is about embracing daily gratitude. Gratitude holds the remarkable power to deeply shift the way you experience your life. In a world that constantly urges you to focus on what you're lacking, practicing daily gratitude helps you become more aware of what you already possess. It invites a radical shift in perspective, one that centers on fullness instead of deficiency. The key is to make gratitude a consistent habit, not just an occasional reflection. Each day, take a few minutes to acknowledge 3 things that you're thankful for. These don't have to be grand accomplishments. They can be small, everyday blessings, like a friend's kind smile or the sunshine breaking through after a storm. The goal is to focus your mind on the things that bring you peace and joy rather than dwelling on negativity or scarcity. This simple daily habit allows you to view the world through a more appreciative and peaceful lens, recognizing the abundance that already surrounds you. Gratitude not only fosters inner peace, but it also elevates your relationships by helping you truly value the people and experiences that you might otherwise overlook. By practicing gratitude daily, you cultivate a mindset rooted in abundance rather than lack. The more you train yourself to be thankful, the more reasons you'll begin to find for continued thankfulness. This generates a powerful and expansive cycle of positivity. Gratitude directly enhances your emotional well-being by reducing stress, easing anxiety, and alleviating frustration. It reconnects you with a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment. Embracing gratitude doesn't mean ignoring life's difficulties. It means seeking out the light, even in moments of darkness. Making gratitude a daily ritual is a simple practice, but one with immense transformative power. When you focus on the blessings already present in your life, you change the way you live, creating a more fulfilled and conscious existence. Strategy 8 encourages you to focus your attention on what you can control. Life is inherently uncertain, filled with elements that lie outside your reach. You cannot control the weather, other people's opinions, or rewrite the past. However, there is one thing that remains firmly within your power: your own thoughts, emotions, and actions. When you shift your energy toward what is within your control, you liberate yourself from the exhaustion and frustration that come from trying to change the unchangeable. The first step is acknowledging that much of the anxiety and stress you experience stems from fixating on things you can't influence, worrying about the future, dwelling on how others perceive you, or replaying past mistakes. These mental habits distance you from the present, robbing you of the ability to respond wisely to what's happening right now. Instead of obsessing over what's out of your hands, redirect your focus toward what you can influence. You hold power over your choices, your responses to situations, and how you face the challenges before you. You can decide how to react to adversity, how to extract lessons from your mistakes, and how to grow stronger through hardship. When you concentrate on what is within your control, you take the reins of your life. You become the foundation of your own peace and emotional stability, no longer relying on external conditions to feel balanced or secure. This mindset allows you to develop greater resilience. Rather than resisting what cannot be changed, you learn to adapt, to navigate life from a place of calm awareness and intentional action. Remember that your energy is limited. Don't waste it on battles that are not yours to fight. Instead, invest it in what is truly within your sphere of influence. By doing so, you will begin to live with greater mindfulness, focus, and inner serenity. Strategy 9 is to practice empathy. Empathy is among the most transformative and powerful abilities you can develop when it comes to building meaningful relationships and resolving conflict. Every person you meet is carrying invisible burdens, personal struggles often hidden behind the faces they present to the world. Before letting frustration or anger take over in difficult interactions, pause for a moment and consider what the other person might be going through. Practicing empathy doesn't mean that you have to agree with someone else's point of view, but it does mean making a sincere effort to understand where they're coming from, their feelings, their life situation, their unique challenges. When you encounter conflict, rather than reacting impulsively, ask yourself, what might this person be feeling right now? what kind of struggles or worries might be influencing their behavior. This conscious effort to understand others allows you to look beneath the surface and respond from a place of compassion rather than judgment. Empathy softens anger and dissolves tension because it fosters deeper human connection. By seeing beyond the immediate situation, you open a path toward resolution and healing. You free yourself from the constant urge to prove a point or assert your own perspective. Instead, you begin to strengthen both your personal and professional relationships. Practicing empathy also nurtures patience and tolerance, helping you recognize that every person has their own journey, their own history, and their own pain. This awareness allows you to respond with greater calmness and grace. By cultivating empathy, you not only become more understanding, you also create space for more peaceful, authentic interactions in your life. Reacting with calmness and constructiveness rather than escalating a conflict allows for resolution through greater understanding and mutual respect. When you practice empathy, you not only improve your own well-being, but also positively impact those around you, fostering a more conscious, connected, and humane environment. By making empathy a central part of your daily life, you contribute to creating a more harmonious and supportive atmosphere. Another key lesson is to embrace the transient nature of life. Nothing in this world is permanent. People, moments, and emotions are fleeting. Everything is in a constant state of change, and when you accept this transience, you cultivate a profound appreciation for the present. Instead of holding on to the past or fearing the future, you learn to savor the here and now. Recognizing the impermanence of life also helps free your heart and mind from unnecessary emotional burdens, such as resentment and anger. Although these emotions are natural, they intensify when we cling to past situations. By understanding that all things end, you can release these negative feelings more easily, making it easier to move forward without carrying the weight of the unchangeable. Embracing life's transience also gives you the flexibility to adapt more easily to changing circumstances, offering a greater sense of peace. You come to see that pain, like joy, is temporary. By accepting impermanence, you learn to cherish what you have in the moment, appreciating the beauty in the everyday moments that often go unnoticed. Instead of living in constant anticipation of the future or regret for the past, you learn to live fully in the present, accepting life's ebb and flow with calmness. Another important insight is to practice love and gratitude. Anger is a destructive force that consumes from within, but love and gratitude are the antidotes. This isn't about empty sentimentality, but about adopting a true philosophy of life. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "When you wake up each morning, remind yourself of the privilege of being alive, breathing, thinking, and loving." When you approach each day from this perspective, anger loses its power over you. Love, in this sense, is not romantic or dependent love, but a deep understanding and compassion for humanity. Everyone acts according to their own understanding and circumstances. So, when someone offends you, instead of reacting with anger, ask yourself, does this person truly know what they are doing? Often, the answer is no. By letting go of personal offense, you realize that it's not possible to be angry and grateful at the same time. If you practice gratitude consciously, your mind will stop searching for things to be upset about. For example, when someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of cursing, be grateful that you have a vehicle and the opportunity to drive. If someone speaks ill of you, be thankful that you have the chance to show who you truly are through your actions. The key is in choosing how to interpret every situation. While you can't control the outside world, you can control the meaning you give to it. Gratitude transforms problems into lessons, and love transforms frustration into patience. If you adopt this mindset, anger will have no place in your life. Furthermore, we often fall into the trap of labeling things as either good or bad. Society teaches us to divide the world into categories like just and unjust, noble and vile, right and wrong. But this binary view of the world is simplistic and ultimately frustrating. The Stoics understood a profound truth. No one is entirely good or entirely bad. Every person acts according to their own perceptions, experiences, and limitations. When someone betrays you, lies to you, or treats you poorly, it's not because they are inherently bad. In their mind, they are justifying their actions, perhaps driven by fear, ignorance, or internal struggles. Labeling them as bad only breeds resentment and solves nothing. As Epictetus stated clearly, it's not the person who harms you, but the judgment you place on their actions that causes pain. You are not angry because of what happens to you, but because of the story you tell yourself about it. For example, if someone insults you on the street and you label them as a fool, anger will flood your mind. But if you instead think, maybe this person is having a tough day, you free yourself from the burden of anger. True power lies in accepting reality as it is, without dividing it into extremes. Don't expect the world to behave according to your expectations. People act based on their own reasons, not yours. When you understand this, you stop suffering from their actions. You won't get angry because you realize that everyone, in their own way, is doing the best they can with the tools they have. If you've made it this far, you have not only learned how to free yourself from anger, but have also taken a significant step toward a calmer, more powerful life. The key is in changing your perspective and not allowing external circumstances to control your inner peace. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you found it helpful, please give it a like and share it with your friends and family. Everyone deserves to live a more peaceful life. Be sure to subscribe for more content on Stoicism and personal growth. And remember, take action now by writing in the comments, "I will never get angry about anything or anyone." This simple but powerful act is the first step toward transformation, and it marks the moment when you commit to a new way of being. Did you know that time has a wicked sense of humor? It's true, because while you're busy living your life, it's secretly setting up little traps. One morning, you wake up and realize your body isn't cooperating like it used to. Naps have gone from luxury to necessity, and your knees creak louder than an old wooden staircase. But don't worry, this isn't the end. In fact, it's just the beginning. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 12 of the most uncomfortable, annoying, and downright baffling things that happen as you age. Things no one ever warned you about. And as a bonus, we'll explore how Stoic philosophy can guide you to meet these changes with grace and even a little humor. So, if you're ready to laugh at the messiness of aging, because let's face it, crying won't fix those wrinkles, stick around. I promise you'll never look at getting older the same way again, and trust me, the last one will leave you speechless. But before we dive in, let me tell you a story that captures the heart of this lesson. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Maria, who lived in a peaceful neighborhood filled with blooming gardens and kind neighbors. Maria was known far and wide for her contagious laughter and boundless energy. But as the years went by, small changes began to creep in, little signs no one ever mentioned. One sunny afternoon, while tending to her plants, she heard an unsettling crunch from her knee as she bent down. She brushed it off, thinking it was just a fleeting thing. But the next day she tried slipping into her favorite shoes and found that her feet had mysteriously widened. Those once beloved shoes now felt like medieval torture devices. Determined not to let it get her down, Maria headed to the shoe store to find something more comfortable. But as she walked in, a sudden wave of heat surged from her neck to her ears. "Is the heat on in here?" she asked, wiping her brow. The clerk, completely unbothered, said, "No, ma'am, must be something else." And just like that, Maria began to suspect that something else was the infamous hot flashes she'd heard about, but never really understood. But it didn't stop there. One morning, as she looked in the mirror, she noticed her once shiny hair had lost its luster, like it had survived a sandstorm. And don't even get her started on the silver threads now boldly sprouting from her eyebrows, from every possible direction. Still, Maria didn't let these changes defeat her. She began spending more time with her friends, all of whom were facing their own age-related curveballs. Together, they laughed about their aches and pains, the mystery spots appearing on their skin, and the strange habit of walking into a room only to forget why they were there in the first place. In the end, Maria came to a powerful realization. Growing older comes with plenty of surprises, most of them unpleasant, but it also gives you stories worth sharing and reasons to laugh at yourself. So, the next time your joints crack like broken twigs or your body acts like it's on a mission of its own, remember you're not alone. This weird, wild adventure called aging is something we're all navigating together. And the real secret? Embrace every little breakdown with a sense of humor and surround yourself with those who understand your journey. Because in the end, it's not about the aches, it's about how you respond to them. Now, before we dive into the first lesson, if you find value in this content, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you'll stay updated with more real, raw, and helpful insights like this. Now let's begin with one of aging's most curious new traditions, the nap. Remember when you were younger, bursting with energy, running from one activity to the next without even thinking about rest? Those were the days. Now, you wake up and, not long after eating, your body flips into airplane mode. It's like lunchtime has become a trigger for an automatic shutdown sequence. Don't worry, you're not broken. You're just getting older. And this is how it goes. Without any warning, your body starts insisting on breaks, especially after meals. That glorious nap you once resisted as a teenager now becomes a biological demand. Digestion, which used to happen without you even noticing, now claims all your energy like a power-hungry app draining your phone battery. The very same body that used to push you to stay active now begs for rest, whether you like it or not. And the wildest part is, it's automatic. You don't even get a say. If we look at it through the lens of Stoic philosophy, which values discipline and self-awareness, you might say your body is finally enforcing its own boundaries. No matter your willpower, post-lunch fatigue hits like a wave. Your eyes get heavy, your focus fades, and all you want is a pillow and a quiet place. And while that may sound frustrating, it actually makes a lot of sense. As we age, our bodies go through various physiological changes. Our metabolism slows, and digestion requires more energy, leaving us with less fuel for everything else. Think of it like trying to charge your phone while running too many apps at once. Something's going to lag. So, what can you do? Just surrender and nap like it's your job? Well, partially, but you can also work with your body instead of against it. Try lightening your meals. Swap heavy lunches for lighter fare like fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins. These choices can keep you energized rather than draining you. A gentle walk after eating can also help you digest without slipping into a coma on the couch. And don't underestimate the power of hydration. Sometimes that exhaustion is just dehydration in disguise. Ultimately, aging doesn't mean defeat. It means transformation. And while naps may feel like a nuisance, they're actually a sign your body is prioritizing its health. So instead of resisting, lean into it. Make your airplane mode as comfy as possible. As the Stoic Epictetus once said, rest is not idleness, it's preparation. Your body is getting ready for what's next. Now, let's talk about the next unavoidable surprise, the silent rebellion of your knees. No one told you this would happen, right? They made aging sound like some distant drama you'd watch from afar, something that happened to other people. Maybe they said that getting older meant becoming wise, offering sage advice and sipping tea. They left out the part where you'd spend half your day hunting for a wrinkle cream that actually works. And now, here you are. Not quite as young, not quite as limber, and suddenly aware that your knees have declared war. At some point, without warning, those trusty joints started making odd noises, creaks, cracks, little groans that sound like you're bending an ancient wooden beam. These knees, once your loyal sidekicks for jumping, running and dancing, now complain with every step. One day you crouch to pick something up, and your legs sound like they've been rusting in a shed. Sitting for a while, good luck standing up again without wincing. It's like your body needs its own soundtrack to get moving. The stiffness, the discomfort. These are the body's not-so-subtle reminders that time is marching forward. And while you might have thought these symptoms were temporary, they're actually here to stay. The truth is, you're in a constant skirmish with your own knees. So what can you do when even walking becomes a cautious negotiation? That's where Stoic wisdom comes in. It teaches us to accept what we cannot change and focus instead on what we can control. Rather than curse your creaky joints, shift your mindset. You're not the same person you once were, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you've lost. It just means it's time to adapt. Stop measuring yourself by who you used to be and start embracing who you can become now. If your knees can't handle high-impact exercise, that's not a failure. It's an invitation to discover new forms of movement. Go for a walk. Take up swimming. Try yoga. Adjust. Adapt. Listen to your body and move accordingly. The key is to keep your body in motion, not to cling to the belief that everything must be exactly as it once was. Yes, it's likely your knees will never be what they were. Time is relentless, you already know that. But if you stop interpreting this as some kind of personal failure and instead embrace the transition, you can move forward with grace. The creaking of your joints isn't the finale, it's simply the prologue to a new phase of your life. Your body is evolving, but that doesn't mean you have to bury the past or surrender to it. You still have the power to decide how to move into the future with deeper wisdom and fewer unrealistic expectations. So the next time you hear a crack or feel that odd twinge when you stand up, don't spiral into drama. It's not a catastrophe. It's a quiet reminder that, even though the body grows older, your response is still fully yours to command. The Stoics taught us to zero in on what lies within our control, and one of those things is our outlook on the inevitable changes life brings. The battle with your knees might seem like a losing one, but your attitude, that's what defines how the rest of the journey unfolds. As Seneca so wisely put it, The real defeat doesn't lie in a body that ages, but in a mind that refuses to embrace the passage of time. Your memory, too, starts playing tricks on you. Has it ever happened that you walk into the kitchen, open the fridge, and stare blankly, having completely forgotten why you came? It's like there's someone inside your brain who suddenly decides to flip the switch and leave you groping in the dark. But take heart. You're not the only one. Memory begins pulling these stunts on all of us, especially as the years start stacking up and age begins to make itself known. No one tells you this openly. There's no grand announcement that your mind may start misfiring. It's as if the handbook for aging without losing your mind was passed around with missing pages. As we progress through life, memory changes, quietly, persistently. You start noticing that recalling things isn't as effortless as before. Remember when you could memorize long to-do lists with ease? Now, you wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if you left the car key in the ignition or forgot to switch off the bathroom light. Of course, no one warned you about this. It sneaks up like a magician's last trick, catching you off guard, leaving you stunned, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. But aging isn't only about memory loss. It comes with other subtle shifts, mysterious aches, wrinkles appearing in places you hadn't noticed before, the growing sense that your energy slips away like sand through your fingers. Still, nobody tells you that these discomforts don't spell doom. They're opportunities. Opportunities to adjust your perspective, to live differently, not desperately searching for some elixir of youth, but learning to accept life as it is, not as it once was. It's not a complex equation. The first step is acceptance. Accepting that your body and your memory aren't what they once were. But there is something far more enduring than physical youth: your mindset. The Stoics, our philosophical allies, taught a crucial lesson. We don't control everything that happens to us, but we do control how we respond to it. So, instead of throwing a tantrum every time you forget why you walked into a room or groan at the sound of your joints, you get to choose a different reaction. Maybe the answer doesn't lie in avoiding these changes, but in finding calm within them. One simple practice the Stoics recommended for gaining mastery over our minds is daily reflection. No need for odd postures or mystical silence, just a few quiet minutes each day to reflect on what truly matters and how you can respond better to what you cannot change. If you adopt this, then the next time you wander into the kitchen and forget why, you won't get angry. You'll simply take a breath, chuckle at the absurdity of it all, and move on. Yes, aging is uncomfortable, and no, it's not as pretty as the movies make it out to be. But that doesn't mean it's not worth enjoying. What you still have, the one thing that hasn't abandoned you, is your ability to see clearly, to embrace what remains. Sure, some parts of you may feel heavier now, your memory might slip, but your attitude in those moments, that can be your superpower. Like a Stoic proverb says, time can reshape the body, but it can never steal our capacity to view life with perspective. Then there's the mysterious case of the rebellious hare. There's something odd about how the body behaves as time passes. You don't quite know when it begins, but suddenly your body turns into an experimental canvas for nature's unpredictable humor. One morning, you catch your reflection, and boom, there's a stray hair on your ear, or worse, your nose. And you're left wondering, how did this even happen? It's nature's strange plan for aging. Nobody sends you a memo, and it's definitely not in the aging handbook. It's as though life itself is in on a cosmic joke, and you're the punchline. Welcome to the secret society of hairs appearing in all the wrong places. As if that wasn't enough, The hairs you used to care about, the ones on your head, begin their quiet exodus, disappearing like guests who left the party early. You find yourself asking, what is going on here? It's as if nature is telling you, I'm taking this from here, but hey, here's a little something over there. Surprise! But again, Stoic philosophy steps in to offer clarity. The Stoics knew well, some things in life just don't make sense. Why do you suddenly get back hair when you can still remember proudly wearing sleeveless shirts without a care? Who knows? The whims of nature aren't yours to control. What is yours is how you handle them. That hair in your ear, it's not just an annoyance, it's a tiny reminder. Life is absurd sometimes, and the best way to face absurdity is with a grin. Focus on what really matters, those fleeting moments of serenity, that quiet cup of tea, that deep conversation. As for those rogue hairs, if they bother you too much, sure, use a little wax. But if you can laugh, even better. Remember, these hairs aren't trying to mock you, they're just doing their job. So next time you find a strand growing where it shouldn't, remember, this is just another sign that life's rules aren't always neat and logical. You don't have to understand everything. You just have to learn to accept what you can't control. And if you struggle to do that, at least do it with a smirk. Let me make something very clear, my friend. Aging isn't your enemy. It's simply a reminder that everything in life, even unwanted hair growth, is relative. Then we get to one of the most humbling shifts of all, those sounds you make when rising from the couch. Ah, the golden days when you'd leap up like a gymnast, muscles and joints cooperating without protest. But oh, how time changes the game. Now you rise and suddenly your body begins making a series of unexpected noises. Ugh, oh, as if you've adopted a whole new language, one spoken in groans and sighs. Welcome to the fine art of creaking when getting up. No one gave you a heads up on this, did they? Nobody warned you that the simple act of standing could become a symphony of resistance from your body. The simple act of shifting your position now feels like a full-blown rebellion declared by your bones and muscles. Welcome to the undeniable truth. Aging has caught up with you, and you're aware of it. Those moments when you're enjoying a movie or lost in the pages of a book, and you decide to get up. That leg you had comfortably stretched out suddenly resists with a stiff protest. Your neck no longer turns as smoothly, and your back? That back cracks with a sound so sharp you're left wondering if you should be calling a doctor or accepting that you've officially joined the ranks of creaky, rusting machines disguised as people. And as you glance around, hoping no one else heard that odd but unmistakable pop, you realize this is your new normal. There's no fighting it. This becomes your quiet mantra. Anyone claiming that aging is a beautiful journey has likely never tried getting up after a weekend binge-watching session, or worse, after spending an entire day sprawled across the couch. The Stoics believe that what truly defines us is not the adversity itself, but how we respond to it. Well, let's be honest. Those sounds you make when standing up, they're simply your body's dramatic interpretation of aging's unavoidable challenges, and if you grumble or groan in the process, maybe you're more stoic than you thought. The trick is acceptance. Each pop, crack and twinge is proof that your body still belongs to you, even if it's not quite the spry partner it once was. The key is not to panic. It's all perfectly normal, albeit mildly irritating. The goal is to find balance, to keep moving while adjusting expectations. And if you find yourself lounging on the couch with a groan loud enough to echo through the entire building, the wisest thing to do is to take a breath, calm yourself, and move deliberately. Each sound is simply a message from your body, a reminder that it's still operating, just on different terms. Even the act of standing becomes an opportunity for self-awareness, not a desperate effort to move silently. Like any reliable machine, your body needs routine maintenance. Before launching into the daily battle of rising from the couch, give yourself a few moments. Stretch. Wake up those muscles that have been on standby for hours. Stretching doesn't just reduce those odd noises. It signals that you still care about this vessel you live in. Think of your body like an old car. Maybe it's not flashy anymore, but with some care and a little love, it still runs. And it's yours. Ultimately, you have to come to terms with the inevitable. Aging isn't the enemy. It's proof you've survived. The real tragedy would be never aging at all. So even when your joints sound like an old screen door in the wind, remember that every creak is a badge of honor, evidence that you're still getting up and still moving forward. Those sounds? They're not a sign of defeat. They're the music of a life lived. Don't let the aging process or its minor discomforts steal your joy. As the Stoics would say, these small troubles are simply part of nature's design. The real question is, how will you face them? So next time you rise and let out a theatrical groan, remember, it's not a weakness, it's a declaration. You're still here, you're alive. And that, dear friend, is more than enough. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, true strength is not found in the condition of the body, but in the way you respond to its limitations. If you were once the type who viewed your closet as a personal fashion runway, brace yourself for one of life's biggest surprises. The seductive outfits of yesteryear have now been quietly swapped for something far more practical: comfort. What once felt like a rebellious stand against oversized sweatshirts and elastic waist pants has morphed into a quiet revolution. Welcome to the era of stretch. Without realizing it, your stretchy pants have become cherished allies. Don't panic. This doesn't mean you've waved the white flag on youth. It's simply the beginning of a transformation, like caterpillars becoming butterflies. Only this version comes with less sparkle and a lot more give. Think back to the days when your wardrobe was packed with clothes that felt like medieval torture devices. Pants so tight they threatened your circulation. T-shirts so fitted they might as well have been vacuum sealed to your body. Sound familiar? That, dear Stoic in the making, was just the beginning of a long, slow evolution. In youth, we viewed fashion as a battlefield, proof that we could endure the suffering of discomfort for the sake of style. But over time, style yields to sensibility. That once bold fashion statement becomes a quiet survival tactic. It's no longer about looking fabulous. It's about breathing, moving, living. The stretchy pants you once swore off are now treasured for their silent support, for the way they let you move without protest. The perfect fit becomes an illusion, a ghost from a past life where everything clung just right. Now, a solid pair of leggings or yoga pants isn't a backup plan. It's a strategy for daily survival. Let's be honest. The pain inflicted by skinny jeans is no longer worth it. The shift didn't happen overnight. It crept in quietly, like a lesson in Stoic acceptance, a string of small realizations that comfort matters more than appearances. Comfort grows within you slowly, like a plant taking root. It starts as a small thought, and blossoms with time and changing needs. The person who once sacrificed ease for image now views life differently. Without the need to conform to painful norms, you begin to understand true freedom. And this transformation is inevitable. Life pushes you toward it, and no matter how hard you resist, learning to adapt becomes the most stoic decision you can make. The ancient philosophers preached that acceptance is the path to inner peace. In this case, embracing elastic waistbands might be your first step. It's more than fashion, it's maturity. Your wardrobe isn't just about what you wear, it's a reflection of how you accept each new chapter. Sexy may be subjective, but comfort, that's universal. And when you stop chasing unattainable beauty standards, you discover something far richer: peace with yourself. So go ahead, celebrate your stretchy pants. Embrace the transformation of your closet. Because the real goal isn't to impress others, it's to feel good in your own skin. Etch this truth into your soul. Choosing comfort isn't giving up. It's wisdom. Real freedom lies in discovering what makes you feel genuinely good and holding on to it. Sleep, once a casual part of your daily routine, becomes a full-blown odyssey as you transition from the invincible nights of youth to the surrender of adult realities. There comes a time when you must admit that uninterrupted 8-hour stretches of rest have become mythical. And this realization leads to another. Life is basically a long chain of uncomfortable compromises. But no one ever tells you that sleep would become such a challenge. When you're young, sleep is effortless. It just happens. But aging transforms it into a nightly expedition filled with rituals and reinforcements, special pillows, high-tech mattresses that cost as much as a small vehicle, and the newfound need to adjust your posture every 20 minutes. Let's start with the mattress. Suddenly, the once comfortable bed becomes a battleground for your spine. You find yourself lying awake, wondering if there's a premium edition of your current mattress that caters specifically to sore backs and aching shoulders. No, it's not that you've grown picky. It's just that your body now issues alerts at ungodly hours, and what once felt like a cozy mattress now feels like a slab of concrete. So naturally, you go on the hunt for the miracle of memory foam, one that promises to cradle not just your body, but your weary soul. And yes, you spend a fortune on it, because if you don't, you might not even be able to get out of bed without feeling like you've just survived a minor car crash. And then come the pillows. Oh, the pillows. This is where the descent into madness begins. The pillow market greets you with such absurd variety that you question whether it's all an elaborate prank. Latex, feather-filled, memory foam infused with gel. All you want is a decent place to lay your head. But now, it's a complicated choice between investing in your future sleep or rolling the dice with another restless night. Because if you choose wrong, your neck will make sure you suffer for it. With a jolt so sharp, you'll spend the next day reconsidering every decision you've ever made. This entire sleep preparation routine starts to mirror other areas of life. The tiny inconveniences you once ignored now carry disproportionate weight. As the Stoics once said, life is a series of unavoidable discomforts, and the secret lies not in escaping them, but in how you respond. So what do you do with these nightly challenges? You don't fight them. You adjust. You adapt. Instead of chasing perfection of the ultimate bed or pillow, perhaps the answer is to accept these minor annoyances with grace. Maybe true rest comes not from ideal conditions, but from the peace that acceptance brings. And in that sense, Even the battlefield of bedtime becomes another place where your Stoic mindset shines, not in avoiding discomfort, but in choosing how to live with it. Maybe what you need is not a better bed, but a better mindset. Maybe true rest isn't about luxury at all. It's about acceptance. The real struggle isn't the search for that perfect pillow or a mattress that cradles you like a cloud. No, the real struggle is about coming to terms with the fact that, like everything else in life, sleep is something that changes with age. As the Stoics often remind us, we may not be able to control everything that happens, but we can always control how we respond. So why keep waging war against pillows and mattresses when you can learn to rest, truly rest, by simply accepting things as they are? Perhaps comfort doesn't come from external perfection, but from an internal decision not to make every little discomfort into a battle. The aches, the night sweats, the tossing and turning, what if they were just part of the rhythm of life? And maybe the key to genuine comfort lies in not taking all of these minor irritations so seriously. As the saying goes, accept what you can't change and calmly work on what you can. Which brings us to another part of the journey. Welcome to the vitamin aisle. Remember the days when your diet was mostly pizza, sugary drinks, and gum? Back then, your secret to survival was a couple of painkillers and a long nap, or so you thought. But everything changes with age. Now, your once light-hearted stroll through the grocery store is a strategic march through shelves of tiny bottles, capsules, and colorful pills. No, this isn't a scene from a sci-fi film. This is your new reality. The once familiar supermarket now feels like a mini pharmacy. Your afternoons, once filled with spontaneous laughter, are now dotted with doctor appointments and new prescriptions. It hits you gradually, that feeling that getting out of bed without groaning is now something to be proud of. Nobody warned you about this part, but time has a way of reminding you that pizza and soda no longer cut it. This is where the vibrant pills enter the picture, the so-called magical supplements promising to bring back your energy or at least make standing up less of an ordeal. You're no fool. You know there's no miracle powder that can rewind the clock. Grandma's remedies don't quite hit the same anymore. Instead, you're bombarded with an endless variety of supplements marketed as the keys to longevity. The vitamin aisle becomes a paradise for salespeople whispering promises of renewed youth into your ear. And naturally, you begin to wonder, are these things really as effective as they claim to be? The answer, like most things in life, is it depends. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control and accept what we cannot. These vitamins aren't going to transport you back to your 20s, but they might help your body function a little more smoothly. But here's the catch. If your plan is to rely on pills while staying glued to the couch, your results will likely include nothing more than indigestion and a higher grocery bill. The real secret isn't in believing these supplements are magic. It's in understanding that they are meant to support a lifestyle, not replace it. Eating well, exercising, sleeping adequately, and managing stress. These are the foundations. Sure, they require more effort than popping a pill, but they actually work. Vitamins are helpful, yes, but they are not miracle workers. Aging is inevitable, and no capsule can freeze time. The sooner you accept that your body has changed, the sooner you can adapt and still enjoy life in new ways. In the end, it's about doing what the Stoics always taught, not resisting the unchangeable, but learning to manage what's within your reach. Maybe you don't need more supplements. Maybe what you really need is a generous dose of self-acceptance. And let's not forget a little humor too, because aging, after all, gives you the perfect excuse to take naps, savor your meals, and complain with full authority. And then there's the ever-growing struggle that creeps in quietly, the battle against technology. Nobody ever prepared you for this. As if the wrinkles, the aching joints, and fading eyesight weren't enough, there's something even more subtle and cruel that settles into your life. This overwhelming digital age that seems to have no mercy. And let's be honest, my friend, you're not winning this one. It starts innocently enough, maybe a new phone, a smart TV, or a laptop update. But before long, your kids, and worse, your grandkids, have become your unofficial tech support. These new household heroes navigate digital systems with ease, while you're left trying to figure out what happened to the remote control you once thought was the most complicated thing you'd ever use. Now, you're dealing with smartphones that update while you sleep, laptops that seem to have moods of their own, and devices that expect you to have the patience of a saint. And let's be real, even the Stoics would struggle here. The worst part? It's not just that you don't understand how it all works, it's that you don't want to understand it anymore. What once was a simple gadget now feels like a Rubik's Cube made of code and buttons. And when something inevitably malfunctions, your younger relatives look at you with a blend of pity and disbelief, like somehow you personally sabotaged the Wi-Fi just by touching your phone. As if your fingers were digital landmines. Accept it. You've lost this battle. And that's okay. You were raised to believe that effort and persistence solve everything. But this is a generational shift. And the smart move now is to delegate. Let go of the guilt. Not every glitch is yours to fix. When your screen freezes, you don't need to dive into a rabbit hole of tech forums. Just hand it over. Your grandkids? They are the new tech wizards. They'll not only fix your settings, but might even teach you how to enjoy this strange digital landscape. And while they work their magic, take a breath. Channel your inner Stoic. Getting upset won't bring back the battery life or recover that forgotten password. There's wisdom in knowing when to pause and ask for help. No. You may never master the group chat, but you do know who has stronger Wi-Fi and a better handle on cookies and caches than you have on Grandma's pie recipe. So when the tech world gets too loud and too fast, remember, being wise doesn't mean knowing everything. It means knowing who to call when things fall apart. As Bree says, life isn't about being the best at everything. It's about knowing when it's time to ask for help. And finally, we arrive at yet another chapter in this ever-changing journey. The revenge of the sensitive stomach. Remember those glorious years when you could eat anything at any hour and never suffer the consequences? You could devour pizza at 3 a.m., eat chocolate like it was oxygen, and your stomach wouldn't even flinch. Those days, sadly, are long gone. Now, even a small indulgence is paid back in full, with burning sensations, bloating, or that slow, creeping discomfort that haunts you after every rich bite. Nobody warned you about this. No one told you that aging comes with a more delicate digestive system, one that turns into an unforgiving dictator. It's not just about getting older. It's about realizing that your body no longer tolerates the things it once welcomed. That once indestructible metabolism now raises a red flag at the slightest hint of spice or fat. It's as if your body has developed its own quiet wisdom. A wisdom that whispers, be more selective, be more thoughtful. It's not punishment, it's transformation. A slow, subtle farewell to youthful carelessness and an invitation to a more mindful relationship with food. So, yes, the sensitive stomach might seem like a betrayal at first, But maybe it's just another way your body asks for respect. Maybe it's not about restriction, but about refinement, learning to enjoy food differently, more intentionally, less impulsively. Old age is that quiet transformation where we start abandoning old habits, especially those we picked up in our youth, and begin to bear the consequences of our past culinary choices. It's as if our bodies, in their silent wisdom, decided that from now on we must be more careful with what we consume. Almost like a form of payback. You enjoyed that pizza last night? Well, today you're going to regret it. It's as though your body speaks to you in a cryptic voice, gently but firmly reminding you of the consequences. But why does this happen? The answer lies in the teachings of the Stoics, who emphasized the value of moderation and self-discipline, principles we may not have considered urgent until our digestive systems began to protest. Perhaps it's finally time we listen to those ancient philosophers, not to become ascetics, but to recognize that excess comes at a cost. Eating mindfully is one way to shield ourselves from those uncomfortable aftermaths, those moments when we ask ourselves, when did I become someone who can't even enjoy ice cream without regretting it? The real question is, what do we do now? It's not about obsessively dieting or becoming enslaved to meal prep containers. It's about identifying what no longer agrees with us and redefining our relationship with food. It's like having a heartfelt talk with an old friend you can't see every day anymore. You still love them, but being around them too often just doesn't work for you. The solution might not be saying goodbye forever, but rather visiting in moderation. Begin by observing what makes you feel unwell. Maybe late-night meals no longer suit you. Maybe cheese after dark is no longer your friend. Yes, it's sad, but it's real. And maybe, just maybe, your body is craving more fruit and fewer fried indulgences. The good news is, there are many delicious options that won't make you pay for them the next day. What matters most is remembering to take care of yourself. The Stoics remind us that real freedom comes from self-mastery, and if that means listening to your gut, literally, then welcome to the club. Life doesn't have to be all sacrifice, but you also can't keep ignoring the signs. In the end, the aging body becomes less forgiving. The sensitive stomach's revenge is very real, but it's something we can manage. The key is moderation, paying attention to what your body is telling you, and above all, knowing this isn't the end of the world, though it might be the end of carefree pizza nights. Let me tell you again, in case you missed it, self-care isn't about restriction. It's an act of love for yourself. Then there's the weekly doctor's appointment. Remember when your calendar was filled with spontaneous get-togethers and last-minute adventures? Those days seem to have faded, replaced now by something far less glamorous: regular visits to the doctor. Adulthood, which once promised freedom and maturity, has begun to look more like a cycle of medical checkups than fun-filled afternoons with friends. And the most surprising part? No one warned you. No one prepared you for this unexpected plot twist in life. Here we are, standing on the threshold of maturity, where bachelor parties are now swapped for cholesterol screenings and monthly dental checkups. It's as though your body, once it reached a certain age, decided to deliver a quiet but firm reality check. Not because you've become a more responsible person, but because life decided it's time to remind you, sometimes sharply, that time leaves traces. You begin to notice your body isn't cooperating the way it used to. There's the knee that creaks, the mysterious back pain, and the blurry vision you once brushed off as nothing. And what's worse is that no one tells you health issues will start arriving more frequently, more uncomfortably, and more urgently. It's not that you've become a hypochondriac, it's just that your body now speaks louder and more often, and it's not always polite in how it delivers the message. So, what now? If you've made it this far, you've likely realized the answer isn't denial, it's acceptance, mixed with a dose of dark humor. The Stoics, those ancient sages, spoke often about embracing the inevitable and finding peace amidst hardship. And while we're not writing philosophical letters from Roman villas, we can still apply a bit of that wisdom. Rather than stress over the growing number of appointments in your calendar, try to see them as moments of self-care. Maybe these visits are the new form of celebration. It's not quite like coffee with friends, but believe it or not, sometimes a chat with a good doctor can be just as revealing. Aging isn't a comfortable topic. Nobody tells you how many unglamorous things you'll start doing unintentionally. But how you face it makes all the difference. Accept those checkups as part of the journey, not a punishment. Because if you think about it, those appointments might be the healthiest plans you'll ever make. And above all, remember to laugh through it all, because sometimes that's all we can do. As Gandhi said, what feels like an obligation today may someday become a wise decision. And then there's this incredible shift, the power of, I don't care anymore. Have you noticed that as you age, you begin to feel a strange yet beautiful relief from the things that used to weigh you down? It's as if some invisible burden has quietly lifted, making space for something much lighter and more freeing. That, my friend, is the magic of simply not caring so much anymore. And the best part? No one teaches you this. You discover it all on your own with time. And far from being a loss, it's a gift. In our younger years, we're haunted by social pressures, constantly wondering what others think, how they see us, and whether we're living according to some unspoken rule book. It's like being trapped under a microscope of judgment. You bend and stretch to meet expectations. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But then, somewhere along the line, you begin to ask, does this really matter? And that's when the magic begins. A switch flips. Suddenly, the need to please others disappears. Because let's be real, how many times have you stressed over someone's judgment, only to later realize they probably don't even remember your face? This is where the Stoics come in again. These old philosophers didn't just know how to think, they knew how to live. They taught that we can't control what others think or say, but we can control how we respond. And yes, life will teach you this too, but it's always good to be reminded. When you stop caring about every opinion thrown your way, you make room for what truly matters. Aging grants you the beautiful license to free your mind from the chains of outside validation. It's like you're suddenly walking through life with a sign that reads, "My happiness is my own responsibility now." And believe me, that's a freedom you'll never want to give back. Of course, not everything becomes easier. As we grow older, we also find ourselves doing things we never imagined, like letting someone cut in line without saying a word, or listening to a long-winded complaint without interjecting. Not because we agree, but because we simply no longer have the energy for those battles. But here's the secret. Aging teaches you which fights are worth it. You learn to let minor annoyances roll off your back like water on a duck's feathers. Growing older isn't just inevitable, it's liberating. It allows you to shed the burden of other people's expectations and start living according to your own values. This doesn't mean you become selfish or reclusive. It means you learn to see clearly what's truly important. So the next time you catch yourself worrying about something that won't matter tomorrow, remind yourself of this incredible power, the power of "I don't care." It's yours now. And as you embrace this freedom, you'll start to realize that living without all that mental noise might be the closest thing we ever get to real peace. As Carl Jung once said, life is far too short to live under the microscope of other people's expectations. Have you ever been ghosted? You thought everything was going great, but suddenly she disappears without a trace, leaving you hanging and wondering what went wrong. Or maybe she's acting hot and cold. One day she's all over you, the next, complete radio silence. It's maddening, isn't it? Let me be brutally honest with you. Women are playing games, and if you don't recognize these games and know how to handle them, you'll find yourself stuck in an endless cycle of frustration, confusion, and heartbreak. But here's the catch. It's not your fault that these games exist, but it is your responsibility to outsmart them. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 foolproof strategies to outsmart any woman playing games with your heart. And no, I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm talking about mastering yourself through Stoicism. You will learn to become the calm in the storm, the unshakable man who can't be controlled by anyone. So buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride that will change the way you handle relationships for good. Before we dive into these strategies, let's get one thing clear. Why do women play these games in the first place? Why do they ghost you, breadcrumb you, or keep you in emotional limbo? The truth is, women use these games as a way to test your emotional strength. They want to see if they can control you, manipulate you, and make you question your own worth. If they succeed in doing so, you're done. They'll lose respect for you, and you'll find yourself chasing after them, desperate for their validation. But here's the good news. You don't have to play along. Instead of being a puppet in her emotional roller coaster, you're going to become the master of your own emotions. Through Stoicism, you'll learn how to remain calm, collected, and in control, no matter what game she tries to play. This isn't just about winning with women. It's about taking control of your life. It's about refusing to let your emotions be manipulated and standing tall as a man who knows his worth. So, if you're tired of being played, done with the emotional games, and ready to take your power back, stay tuned. These 10 Stoic strategies will change your life. The first strategy is about detaching emotionally and stopping the reactive behavior that most men fall into. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means that your emotions no longer control you. You are no longer reactive. Most guys freak out when a woman pulls away or starts acting distant. They become anxious, overthink the situation, and try to fix things. But here's the truth. Women are testing you. They want to see how easily you crack under pressure. When you chase after them, desperate for their attention, you fail the test. Instead, you need to remain emotionally detached. Whether she's texting you every 5 minutes or ghosting you for a week, your emotional state should remain unchanged. Stay calm, stay centered, and don't let her games sway you. The more you practice emotional detachment, the more attractive you become. Women are drawn to men who can stay composed because it shows strength, and strength is what makes you irresistible. The second strategy is to recognize her manipulative behavior patterns. Women are creatures of habit, and once you start paying attention, you'll begin to notice patterns in their behavior that you didn't see before. Why is this important? Because patterns reveal intent, and once you can recognize the pattern, the game becomes predictable. When something becomes predictable, you can easily outsmart it. One common pattern you'll likely notice is hot and cold behavior. One day she's texting you non-stop, saying how amazing you are and hinting at future plans together. The next day, nothing. Crickets. She suddenly acts distant, busy, or like she doesn't care. It's maddening, right? This is the classic push-pull strategy. Women use this to see if they can get you to chase after them. If you fall for it and start blowing up her phone, asking if everything is okay, or if you did something wrong, you're playing right into her hands. Here's what you need to do. Recognize this as a test of your emotional control. She wants to see if she can get a reaction out of you. Most guys fail this test because they panic and chase harder. But not you. You're going to stay calm and composed and let her come to you. When you don't react to her hot and cold behavior, you flip the script. Suddenly, she's the one chasing you, wondering why you didn't fall for her game. Let me be clear. This behavior isn't always malicious. Sometimes, women do it subconsciously to test your confidence without even realizing it. But whether it's intentional or not, the result is the same. You need to stay emotionally grounded and unshakable. Another pattern to watch out for is breadcrumbing. This is when she gives you just enough attention to keep you interested, but never fully commits. You might get a flirty text here and there, or she might agree to hang out, but there's always a sense of ambiguity and indecision. This behavior is designed to keep you on edge, always hoping for more, but never fully receiving it. Recognizing these patterns and responding with emotional detachment and strength will help you break free from this cycle and take control of your emotional life. By learning to recognize these behaviors and mastering your own emotional response, you'll transform your relationships and become a man who's unshaken, in control, and immune to the emotional games that many women play. You might receive a flirty text here and there, or she may agree to meet up sometime, but when it's time to actually make plans, she's nowhere to be found. This behavior is a strategy designed to keep you emotionally hooked, investing your time and energy without giving you any real commitment in return. How do you handle breadcrumbing? The key is to call it out calmly, without anger or emotional investment. You could say something like, "Look, I'm not here for half-hearted attention. If you're not interested in spending time together, that's fine, but I'm not going to wait around." The important thing is that you're not angry, not emotional, and definitely not chasing after her. By setting this boundary, you make it clear that you have standards and won't settle for less than you deserve. Setting firm boundaries is essential to commanding respect. The truth is, if you don't establish boundaries early in a relationship, you're signaling to her that it's okay for her to walk all over you. Many men fear setting boundaries because they worry it will scare women off, but women actually crave boundaries because they show self-respect. A man who respects himself earns the respect of others, including women. Setting boundaries isn't about controlling her actions. It's about communicating your needs to feel respected in the relationship. For example, if she's constantly canceling plans last minute or leaving you hanging without any explanation, you don't ignore it or let it slide. Instead, you address it directly and calmly, saying something like, "I've noticed you've been canceling a lot lately, and I value consistency. If you're not interested in making plans work, that's fine, but I'm not okay with this back and forth." You're not attacking her, not accusing her, but simply stating your boundary. When you communicate this with self-respect, you're forcing her to either step up and respect you or move on. Either way, you're protecting your emotional energy. Now, imagine you're in a situation where a woman flirts with other guys in front of you, perhaps trying to make you jealous or test how much you care. Most men either blow up and get angry or stew in jealousy. But you calmly pull her aside and say, "Look, I'm not into games. If you're interested in other guys, that's fine, but I'm not sticking around for that." You're setting a boundary, leaving it up to her to decide whether she'll respect it. If she doesn't, you walk away. When it comes to mind games, nothing is more powerful than staying calm under pressure. Women often test men to see if they can provoke them emotionally. They might talk about their ex, flirt with other guys, or make passive-aggressive comments to see how you'll react. It's a classic tactic designed to push your buttons, and most men take the bait. But not you. You'll handle these situations like a Stoic. When she starts pushing your buttons, you remain calm, composed, and completely unbothered. Here's why this works. When you refuse to react, you completely disarm her. She expects you to blow up, get jealous, or argue. But when you stay calm, you send a clear message that she can't control you. Let's take an example. Imagine she brings up her ex during a conversation, saying something like, "My ex used to take me to this amazing restaurant," or "I had so much fun with my ex last summer." She's trying to get a rise out of you, to make you feel insecure or jealous. Most guys would respond by saying something like, "I don't want to hear about your ex," or "Why are you still thinking about him?" But not you. You stay calm and respond with something like, "That's cool, I'm sure he was a great guy." By doing so, you're not giving her the reaction she's looking for, and that makes you unpredictable. In another scenario, imagine she flirts with another guy in front of you, maybe in a group setting. Most men would start to fume, either trying to outdo the other guy or getting angry at her for disrespecting them. But a Stoic man remains calm. Even if it stings a little inside, you don't engage in competition. You simply observe and show her that you're not threatened. If she's doing this to get attention from you, your calmness will make her wonder why you're not reacting. That's when the power shifts back to you. The key here is to never let your emotions control your actions. When you stay calm under pressure, you show her that you're not easily shaken, and that makes you incredibly attractive. Most guys lose their way in relationships because they're too focused on immediate gratification. They want the validation of her affection, the high of her attention, or the quick fix of resolving a conflict. But Stoicism teaches us to focus on long-term goals rather than short-term drama. When you focus on your long-term goals, you stop being distracted by her games. You prioritize your own development, emotional stability, and self-respect, which ultimately leads to a stronger, more balanced approach to relationships. You become less concerned with the immediate highs and lows, and more focused on creating lasting, meaningful connections built on mutual respect and understanding. When it comes to relationships, focusing solely on short-term desires, such as craving attention or trying to fix conflicts immediately, can easily lead to emotional instability. Stoicism, on the other hand, encourages a longer-term perspective. By prioritizing long-term goals, whether in your career, physical fitness, or personal growth, you stop getting caught up in the daily drama that can come with a relationship. Consider this. If you're working hard to build a successful career, improving your fitness, and developing as a person, do you really have time to get lost in petty mind games? Absolutely not. You've got bigger things on your plate. This shift in mindset serves two key purposes. First, it makes you less emotionally reactive, because your emotions are no longer tied to the whims of another person's attention. You stop relying on her for emotional validation because you're already getting that from the progress you're making in your own life. Second, it makes you more attractive because women find purpose-driven men magnetic. A man who is focused on his mission in life exudes an energy that is far more compelling than someone who is fixated on someone else's actions. Let's imagine you've been dating a woman for a few weeks and everything seems to be going well. But suddenly she starts pulling away, texting less, making fewer plans, and acting distant. The typical response for most men would be to panic, overthink, and try to fix things by chasing harder or making themselves more available. But a man who is focused on his long-term goals does not flinch in the face of this. Why? Because he knows that his worth isn't defined by whether or not she's giving him attention. He's busy building his empire, improving himself, and pursuing his goals. If she wants to be part of that journey, great. If not, he won't lose any sleep over it. When you're focused on long-term goals, you naturally become more emotionally independent. You stop needing her to validate your worth because your progress and accomplishments already do that. And here's the thing. When she sees that you're not chasing her or getting caught up in the drama, she will find herself drawn to you more. Why? Because you're not the guy waiting around for her text. You're the guy too busy working on his life to care about petty games. One of the biggest mistakes men make when dealing with women who play mind games is retaliating emotionally. Let's say she flirts with another guy or does something that makes you feel hurt or jealous. The typical response might be to try and get even, to flirt with another girl to make her jealous, or play hard to get to make her chase you. But make no mistake, this will never work. The moment you retaliate emotionally, you're losing. Why? Because you're reacting to her behavior, which puts her in control of the situation. You're letting her dictate your actions, and this is a sign of weakness. A Stoic man, however, never retaliates emotionally. He understands that emotional reactions are a weakness and instead responds with calm indifference. For instance, if she ghosts you, you don't chase after her or play games in return. You simply withdraw your attention and focus on yourself. If she tries to make you jealous by flirting with another guy, you don't take the bait. You stay calm and continue with your life. Imagine you're at a party with a woman you've been seeing and she starts flirting with another guy right in front of you. Most guys would either get angry and confront her or try to flirt with another girl to make her jealous. But both of these reactions come from insecurity. As a Stoic, you stay calm and don't engage. You refuse to give her the emotional reaction she's looking for, and that drives her crazy. Why? Because you've shown her that she doesn't have power over you. When you don't retaliate emotionally, you maintain control of the situation. You send the message that you won't be manipulated by her games. And the beauty of this approach is that when you don't react, the game loses its power. She'll either stop playing it or realize she can't control you. Either way, you win. Communication is the foundation of any healthy relationship, but many people get it wrong. Either they avoid tough conversations or they approach them with too much emotion, which leads to arguments, misunderstandings, and unnecessary drama. A Stoic man knows how to communicate his needs and boundaries clearly and firmly, without letting emotions get the better of him. For instance, if a woman has been acting distant or inconsistent, and it's beginning to affect you, the typical response might be to either blow up at her or suppress your feelings. But a Stoic man handles this situation by addressing it directly without creating drama. He says something like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been acting differently lately. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'd like to know if there's something we need to talk about." Notice how he's not accusing her, raising his voice, or demanding answers. He's simply expressing his observation and inviting her to share her perspective. This approach disarms her because it shows that you're not coming from a place of neediness or emotional outbursts. You're coming from a place of calm confidence, and that's incredibly attractive. When you communicate clearly and firmly, you set boundaries and express your needs without drama or emotional volatility. You take control of the conversation, making it clear that you're a man who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to ask for it. It signals that you are not afraid to confront problems head-on and that you won't let issues fester. This establishes a dynamic rooted in respect and honesty rather than manipulation or mind games. At the heart of any successful relationship is a strong, healthy connection with oneself. The most important relationship you have is with yourself, a truth that too many men overlook when they become entangled in emotional games or manipulative behavior. If you are constantly anxious, stressed, or feeling as though you're walking on eggshells, it's time to reevaluate what you are allowing into your life. No person should be the cause of sacrificing your mental peace, self-respect, or overall well-being. When you begin putting someone else's needs above your own, especially at the expense of your sanity, you are already losing the game. This is not about becoming selfish or disregarding others, but about maintaining balance. When you prioritize your own well-being, you become more attractive, not less. Women are drawn to men who are grounded, who know their own worth, and who refuse to let anyone destabilize their peace. This principle applies across every area of life, not just relationships. Whether it's your career, friendships, or family, your well-being should always come first. Take a moment to think about a situation where you might be seeing someone who sends mixed signals. 1 minute, she's affectionate. The next, she's distant or cold. You may start questioning yourself, wondering if you've done something wrong, and perhaps even changing your behavior to fit her mood swings. But stop for a moment and ask yourself how this is affecting your mental health. If the answer is negatively, it's time to take action. You need to step back, withdraw your energy, and refocus on what makes you feel good, whether that's hitting the gym, working on your personal goals, or spending time with supportive friends. Protecting your peace should be your priority, and when you do, 2 things will happen. Either she will recognize your value and start respecting you more, or she will leave because she can no longer manipulate you. In both cases, you win. You have either removed someone who doesn't respect you from your life, or you have gained control in the relationship by showing that you are not easily swayed. In today's world, many men are pressured into catering to women's emotions at the cost of their own well-being. This is nonsense. Prioritizing your mental, emotional, and physical health isn't just attractive. It is essential for your survival in the modern dating world. When you make it clear that your peace of mind is non-negotiable, you immediately become more desirable and respected. So, the next time you feel that someone's erratic behavior threatens your peace, ask yourself if it's worth sacrificing your well-being. If the answer is no, it's time to recalibrate and focus on what truly matters, yourself. Patience is an incredibly powerful tool, especially when dealing with women who may be playing games. The reality is that patience is something many men struggle with because they want instant results. They want clarity right now. They want to know where they stand. But here's the truth. Women often test a man's patience to see if he can handle uncertainty. In a world where everyone is conditioned to expect instant responses, the man who can practice patience becomes a rarity. He's seen as valuable and rare because he doesn't crack under pressure. If she doesn't text back right away, he doesn't lose his cool. If plans are cancelled last minute, he doesn't lose his temper. Instead, he allows things to unfold naturally and stays composed. Women will inevitably test a man's patience. They might take hours to respond to a text, or even go silent for days just to see if he will panic or chase them. Most men fall into this trap by double texting or over-analyzing the situation. But you are different. You understand the power of patience. The next time she tries one of these moves, resist the urge to react. Do nothing. Let her reach out to you when she's ready. Trust that she will notice your calm response and wonder why you're not chasing after her. This shift in behavior is when the power dynamic shifts in your favor. Why is patience so powerful? It demonstrates that you are not desperate for her validation. It shows that you are emotionally stable, that you have your own life, and that you won't drop everything just because she's pulling away. This makes you a challenge, and women are naturally drawn to challenges. Practicing patience is not just about waiting for her to text back or to commit to something. It's about delaying gratification in all areas of your life. When you master patience, you stop chasing things that don't serve your long-term goals. You stop reacting emotionally to every little incident, and you stop getting caught up in the emotional roller coaster that many men succumb to. A Stoic man understands that good things take time. He isn't rushing, nor is he desperate. He's playing the long game, and the long game always wins. While other men scramble for attention and immediate validation, you sit back, allowing things to unfold while keeping your focus on your goals. Remember, patience doesn't mean doing nothing forever. It means waiting for the right moment to act, whether in your relationship, career, or personal growth. Patience enables you to make calculated, strategic moves that will pay off in the long run. It's not about instant gratification. It's about achieving lasting success. Choosing to walk away with confidence when necessary is another powerful tool. There's a saying that the most powerful position is to be able to walk away and mean it. If you remember one thing from this, let it be this: knowing when to walk away is the ultimate power move. It's the nuclear option, the trump card most men are too afraid to play, but when you do, you immediately gain the upper hand. Not every woman deserves your time and energy. If she's playing games, stringing you along, disrespecting your time, or treating you like an option, you need to be prepared to walk away, not in a petty or dramatic manner, but with calm, quiet confidence. Here's the key. When you walk away, you show her that you don't need her validation. You show her that you have other options, and most importantly, that your self-respect is far more important than her approval. The kicker is that most of the time, when you walk away, she'll chase you. Why? Because walking away is the ultimate act of self-respect, and women are naturally drawn to men who respect themselves. But let's be clear, walking away isn't a tactic to manipulate her into chasing you. It's about knowing your value and refusing to settle for less. When you walk away, you're saying that you're no longer willing to play the game. If she wants to be part of your life, fine. But if not, you're perfectly okay without her. If she keeps flaking on plans, texting other men, or disrespecting you in any way, you calmly tell her you're no longer interested in the back and forth. If she's serious, she'll let you know, but otherwise you move on. No anger, no frustration, no drama, just calm, collected confidence. And then you walk away. You don't send a follow-up text, you don't check her social media, and you focus solely on yourself, your goals, and your well-being. Here's the hard truth. Sometimes walking away means walking away for good. There will be times when she won't chase you and she won't come back, and that's okay. By walking away, you've already won. You've maintained your dignity, your self-respect, and your peace of mind. And trust me, those things are far more valuable than any fleeting relationship. Why is this so powerful? Because most men are afraid to walk away. They fear losing her or being alone. But when you walk away, you're saying you're not afraid. You know your worth, and you won't settle for less. That level of confidence is rare, and it's magnetic. The best part is that when you walk away, you free yourself from the emotional games. You take back control of your life, and you stop letting someone else dictate your happiness or self-worth. That, my friend, is true power. Now, in conclusion, it's time to take back your power and control your life. You have it. These 10 powerful, practical, and life-changing ways to outsmart any woman who's playing games with your heart are more than just strategies for relationships. They're strategies for life. When you practice emotional detachment, set boundaries, stay calm under pressure, prioritize your well-being, practice patience, and know when to walk away, you become unstoppable. But let me emphasize this. This isn't about manipulation or tricking women. It's about mastering yourself. It's about becoming a man who is in control of his emotions, his time, and his life. When you become that man, you will naturally attract women who respect you, value you, and don't play games. But understand, this is just the beginning. These strategies will set you on the path to becoming the best version of yourself. But the work doesn't stop here. Keep growing, keep learning, and keep applying these principles in every area of your life. Imagine living with an unshakable sense of peace, where nothing and no one has the power to disturb your calm. A life where criticism, offenses, and problems no longer steal your tranquility. It may seem impossible, but the Stoics were able to achieve this while the world around them reacted with anger and frustration. They remained composed, not because they didn't feel emotions, but because they had learned to master them. In this post, I will share how you can achieve the same level of peace by applying Stoic teachings. Once you do, you'll find yourself no longer getting angry or upset with anyone. Not because the world will change, but because you will have transformed yourself. To begin, go to the comments and write, "Today, I start my best version. I am Stoic." By doing so, you commit to taking control of your mind and living with discipline. Now, let's dive into how you can master your emotions and achieve this inner peace. One of the most destructive emotions we can experience is anger. Not only does it harm the people around us, but it also eats away at us from the inside, weakening our minds and leading us to make decisions that we may later regret. The Stoics saw anger as one of the greatest threats to virtue, because when we allow anger to take control, we stop thinking rationally and become slaves to our impulses. Anger is not a sign of strength, but of weakness, a proof that we've lost control over ourselves. Anger is like a wildfire that starts from a small spark. Perhaps it's an offhand comment, an action we perceive as unfair, or an unexpected obstacle. If we feed it with negative thoughts, it grows and quickly spirals out of control, consuming our mental clarity, damaging our relationships, and harming our well-being. Marcus Aurelius wisely suggested that the best way to fight anger is by preventing it from arising in the first place. By learning to recognize the early signs of anger, we can extinguish it before it overwhelms us. The consequences of allowing anger to take over are dire. Not only does it lead to unnecessary conflict, but it also impacts our health. Science has confirmed what the Stoics knew long ago, that anger raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and can even trigger cardiovascular issues. Anger is not just a fleeting emotion, it's a poison that, if allowed to grow unchecked, can destroy both the mind and body. As Epictetus taught, it's not the external events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. If someone insults us, it's not the insult itself that harms us, but the value we attach to it. Learning to control our perception is the first step toward mastering anger. When we allow ourselves to be swept up by anger, our actions often become irrational. In the heat of the moment, it might seem justified to yell, insult, or lash out. However, when the storm has passed, we realize that our response only made the situation worse. A moment of anger can destroy relationships that took years to build, and harsh words can leave scars that never heal. Seneca described anger as a brief delirium, a state where we lose control over our words and actions. If we take a moment to observe ourselves closely, we'll notice that most of our angry reactions are disproportionate and illogical. Think of an argument with a loved one. In the heat of the argument, harsh words might seem necessary, but once things calm down, we realize that we could have handled the situation more wisely. Problems can often be solved with calm dialogue and patience, but anger clouds our judgment, making us seek revenge rather than solutions. This only feeds a cycle of resentment and pain. The Stoics taught that the best way to combat anger is through self-discipline and reflection. Marcus Aurelius suggested that we remember that life is short, and most of the things that upset us are insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Seneca recommended practicing patience and indifference toward provocations. True strength lies not in responding with violence, but in remaining calm when everything around us seems to be pushing us toward anger. Anger is an internal enemy, a beast that, if not tamed, can consume us. But the good news is that we can train ourselves to resist it. The next time you feel anger rising, stop and ask yourself if it's really worth it. Remember, no one has the power to disturb you unless you allow it. Peace is not found in the absence of provocations, but in the ability to face them with calmness and control. All negative emotions, including anger, arise from unmet expectations. Negative emotions don't stem from what happens to us, but from what we expect to happen. Frustration, anger, sadness, all of these emotions share a common root: the gap between what we expected and what actually occurred. When we believe that the world should behave in a certain way and it doesn't, we feel disappointed or hurt. But in truth, the fault lies with us for having created unrealistic expectations. We cling to illusions, and when reality shatters those illusions, instead of adapting, we react with suffering. We get angry because people don't act as we want them to, because the outcomes we expected don't materialize, or because life doesn't follow the script we've written in our minds. We believe we deserve certain treatment, certain successes, or clear paths. But life doesn't follow our rules. Frustration arises not from the event itself, but from the contrast between what we hoped for and what actually happened. Seneca wisely said that we suffer more in our imaginations than in reality, because it's not the events that harm us, but the way we interpret them. If we learn to accept events without resistance, we can avoid much of the unnecessary pain. Imagine someone who believes that their partner will never cheat on them because that's what should happen. They've built an expectation based on their own sense of right and wrong. But if betrayal occurs, their anger doesn't stem from the act itself, but from the clash with the idealized image they had created. Instead of accepting reality as it is, they resist it, and that internal struggle leads to suffering. Another example might be a person who expects their friends to always be there for them, or their boss to value their efforts. When these expectations aren't met, they feel disappointment and anger because they assume the world should follow their rules. The Stoics teach us that the key to inner peace lies in eliminating unrealistic expectations. It's not about resignation, but about understanding that the world owes us nothing. We cannot control the actions of others or the events outside of our control. The only thing we can control is our own reaction to them. Epictetus urged us to accept what happens as if we had chosen it ourselves, because resisting reality only creates suffering. If we stop expecting people to behave in a certain way and accept that they may fail us, and if we accept that life doesn't always follow a predictable path, we can eliminate much of the stress and frustration in our lives. Accepting reality as it is doesn't mean we shouldn't have goals or desires, but we must be prepared for the unexpected. A Stoic understands that everything is subject to change and that nothing is guaranteed. That's why they don't allow their emotions to be dictated by external factors. By eliminating rigid expectations, we stop demanding that the world conform to our beliefs. Instead of getting frustrated when things don't go as planned, we ask ourselves what we can learn from the situation. Rather than feeling betrayed, we understand that people act according to their own nature, not according to the one we've imagined for them. True peace is found in flexibility, the ability to accept whatever comes our way without resistance. Finally, anger is often a reflection of the ego. When we feel disrespected, treated unfairly, or overlooked, we react with anger because our sense of identity feels threatened. We believe we deserve better treatment, that others should see us as we see ourselves. When that doesn't happen, we feel that something sacred within us has been violated. But the truth is that anger doesn't come from what others do to us. It comes from our interpretation of their actions. It's our ego that demands recognition, that takes offense, that needs to defend our image. If our ego weren't so fragile, if we didn't take ourselves so personally, anger would lose its grip on us. When someone speaks to us harshly, our initial reaction is to feel attacked. But what if that person is simply having a bad day, and their words have nothing to do with us, but with their own struggles? The reality is that most of the time, others' actions are more about them than they are about us. However, our ego makes us believe that everything revolves around us. We say, "He disrespected me. He embarrassed me. He didn't appreciate me." But what would happen if we stopped positioning ourselves at the center of every experience? What if we truly understood that other people's actions are their own burdens to carry, not ours? In doing so, we could release ourselves from the grip of anger. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. If someone offends us, the insult in itself holds no power unless we choose to give it meaning. We have the power to ignore it, to see it as a reflection of the other person's inner world, and to move forward without letting it disturb our peace. But the ego does not want peace. It wants conflict. It wants to defend its image. It wants to prove that it is right. And in that desire to protect our sense of self, we fall into the trap of anger. We lose control and react impulsively. But if another person's insult doesn't change our identity, and their attitude doesn't define our value, why allow ourselves to be dragged into a state of emotional chaos? Consider a simple moment in traffic. Someone cuts us off abruptly. The ego insists this is a personal offense, a blatant act of disrespect that must be addressed. It urges us to react, to retaliate, to not allow such treatment. Yet the reality is that the other driver probably didn't even notice us. They're lost in their own thoughts, their own day. Still, our ego insists on taking it personally, turning a thoughtless act into an insult. And in doing so, it invites anger to take over. But what if, instead of reacting, we chose to accept the moment as it is? This dynamic plays out across our relationships and daily interactions. What provokes us is not the event itself, but the story we tell ourselves about it. The Stoics taught that to master anger, we must understand the role our ego plays in inflaming it. If we build a healthy self-esteem, if we release the need for constant validation, if we recognize that our value is not tied to how others treat us, we become immune to provocation. As Seneca said, the best revenge is not to become like those who hurt us. If someone treats us poorly and we react with rage, we surrender our peace to them. But if we remain calm, if we refuse to play their game, we show real strength. Anger is a reflex born from an ego that has not yet learned to let go of others' opinions. But once we understand that no one else has the authority to define us, we begin to free ourselves. Their behavior says more about them than it ever will about us. This doesn't mean we should tolerate abuse or accept injustice in silence. It means learning to respond with intelligence rather than raw emotion. Inner peace doesn't come from controlling the behavior of others. It comes from mastering our own reactions. When the ego is no longer the center of our universe, anger loses its hold. Forgiveness, too, is a key that frees us from anger. Anger is a heavy weight, often carried unconsciously. We cling to resentment, believing it somehow punishes the person who wronged us. But in truth, we are the only ones being punished. Anger consumes our inner calm, traps us in a mental prison, and blocks us from moving forward. Forgiveness, on the other hand, unlocks that prison. It doesn't mean we excuse what happened or forget it naively. It means we let go of the need to continue suffering over something already done. Forgiveness is not a gift we give the other person. It is an act of love for ourselves. It is an essential step toward reclaiming our peace. Holding on to anger means reliving pain over and over again. Our minds become battlegrounds where the past continues to inflict fresh wounds. We keep empowering the person who hurt us simply by refusing to release the memory. But Marcus Aurelius said that the best revenge is to be unlike the person who caused us harm. If we were betrayed, offended, or deeply wounded, continuing to harbor resentment only extends that person's control over us. Forgiveness gives us back our power. It enables us to shed the weight of the past and move forward unburdened by bitterness. Resentment is a trap laid by the ego which tells us that forgiveness is weakness. In reality, true strength lies in those who govern their emotions and choose peace over pain. Seneca taught that anger should never guide our actions. When we act from anger, we are no longer the authors of our behavior. If someone wrongs us and we respond with resentment, we are giving them authority over our serenity. But if we choose forgiveness instead, we reclaim control over our thoughts and our well-being. Imagine someone who has been betrayed by a close friend. The natural response is anger, disappointment, a thirst for revenge. But how long can one sustain that emotional storm before it becomes toxic? Resentment doesn't torment the traitor. It poisons the one who holds on to it. Each recollection of the betrayal stirs fresh pain. Forgiveness allows us to accept that what's done is done, that the past need not dictate our present. This is not about trusting the betrayer again, but about refusing to let their actions continue to influence our happiness. Forgiveness is a conscious decision. It doesn't happen instantly, and it's rarely easy. but it is the pathway to inner freedom. Epictetus reminded us that while we cannot control the actions of others, we always retain control over our response. When we are offended, it is not the insult that truly wounds us, but the weight we attach to it. Through forgiveness, we strip away that weight. We come to understand that everyone acts according to their own inner state, their own level of awareness. Their behavior is a mirror of their internal world, not a reflection of ours. This doesn't mean we tolerate abuse or stay silent in the face of injustice. It means we learn to release the resentment that suffocates our joy. When we forgive, we are not just freeing the other person. We are liberating ourselves. We stop dragging unnecessary burdens. We conserve our energy for what truly matters. The real revenge is not to hurt in return, but to show that we remain unchanged by the harm done to us. We move forward, unshaken by anger, grounded in peace. Peace does not come from waiting for others to apologize. It comes from deciding that our well-being is not tied to their behavior. Forgiveness is not about pretending nothing happened. It is about choosing freedom over rage, serenity over turmoil. Practicing non-reaction is another way we guard ourselves against anger. When something irritates or provokes us, our first instinct is emotional and immediate. We want to respond, to defend, to assert our correctness. But in those moments, we are not thinking clearly. Our minds are being ruled by instinct, not reason. That's when we make mistakes. That's when we say things we later regret. That's when we escalate what could have been peacefully resolved. Training ourselves to pause before responding gives us mastery over our emotions. It shields us from the emotional exhaustion that impulsive reactions often cause. Taking a moment, resisting the pull to respond immediately, these are acts of power. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion or becoming indifferent. It means refusing to be a slave to emotion. Marcus Aurelius advised that the best defense against an insult is not to resemble the one who insults you. If someone hurls harsh words at you, reacting with anger only means you've allowed them to disturb your peace. But if you remain calm, if you choose silence or a measured response, you show that you're in control, that your well-being is not dictated by others' moods. Daily life offers countless opportunities to practice non-reaction. A rude coworker, an aggressive driver, a family member always looking to argue. In each moment, the choice is ours. We can fuel the fire, or we can pause and respond with wisdom. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to us, but how we interpret it, that affects us. If someone criticizes you in a meeting and you take it personally, you'll react defensively. But if you pause, breathe, and consider the situation rationally, you may choose to respond calmly, preserving both your professionalism and your peace. Non-reaction is not weakness, it is a sign of strength. Most people are at the mercy of their impulses. When provoked, they lash out without thinking. But true power belongs to those who can resist that initial urge, to those who know they don't have to prove anything, to those who choose when and how to act. Seneca once reminded us that time acts as a powerful filter for emotions. What feels like an unforgivable offense today often fades into irrelevance in just a few days. The things that deeply irritate us right now may seem trivial in a matter of hours. This is why it's so important not to react immediately. Delaying our reaction allows us to gain perspective, to step back and view the situation with greater clarity before making any decisions. Practicing non-reaction does not mean passively accepting everything or allowing others to mistreat us. Rather, it means responding with reason instead of emotion. If something genuinely requires a response, the most effective one will come from a calm mind. Instead of reacting to fire with more fire, we respond with intelligence and inner balance, not out of weakness, but because we understand that our peace is far more valuable than a meaningless argument. Every time we feel the urge to react impulsively, we must remember that we always have the option not to. We can allow the emotion to rise and pass without letting it control us. In doing so, something remarkable begins to happen. Conflicts become fewer, anxiety diminishes, and those who once provoked us lose their grip on our emotional state. This practice of non-reaction opens the door to true freedom, the ability to choose how and when we respond, no longer enslaved by external triggers. There is a deep connection between low self-esteem and anger. Anger is often nothing more than a reflection of internal insecurity. When we are not at peace with ourselves, even a passing comment, a glance, or a simple situation that challenges our self-image can set us off. It's not the event itself that enrages us, it's what it stirs up inside. If someone criticizes us and we respond with anger, the real issue is not their words, but the weight we give them. If we were secure in who we are, with strong self-esteem, we wouldn't need to react with anger. We would simply disregard the remark. But when our sense of self is fragile, any slight shakes us, and anger becomes our shield. Insecurity breeds a sense of vulnerability. We feel we must constantly defend our image, convinced others are judging us and that every negative comment is a threat. Our mind misinterprets these situations as personal attacks and reacts aggressively. But the truth is, no one can diminish our worth unless we allow it. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by what others say, but by the meaning we assign to their words. If we believe we are weak or inadequate, any criticism will reinforce that belief, and our first response will be anger. On the other hand, if we possess a solid sense of identity, no external judgment can rattle us. I recall a time when every remark about my appearance triggered anger. I used to tell myself it was due to others' lack of respect, but in reality, I was angry with myself. I disliked what I saw in the mirror, and every external comment felt like confirmation of my own doubts. Their opinion didn't hurt me, my own perception did. The anger didn't stem from them, but from the insecurity I carried within. Over time, I came to see that the real problem wasn't other people. It was my own lack of control over myself. So instead of wasting energy reacting in anger, I chose to take action. I focused on improving my health, building discipline, and reshaping my mindset. And gradually, when those same comments were made, they no longer affected me. Not because people had changed, but because I had changed. Low self-esteem distorts the way we perceive reality. We start to believe we are under constant judgment, but it's not the outside world causing our distress, it's our perception of it. Marcus Aurelius once said that if something external disturbs us, the issue isn't with the thing itself, but in our judgment of it. So when someone says something that offends you, ask yourself why it affects you. Is it because deep down you fear it might be true? Do you carry doubts about yourself? Often, the answer is yes. Anger is a defensive reaction to that inner insecurity. But when we work on our self-worth, anger loses its grip on us. We become less reactive, more serene, and more focused on what truly matters. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves to anyone because we already know who we are. The opinions of others cease to be threatening because our sense of value no longer depends on their approval. The Stoics teach us that real strength doesn't come from controlling others, but from mastering ourselves. Anger is a signal that something within us still needs healing. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can view those moments as opportunities to reflect, to grow, and to identify the parts of ourselves that still need attention. Every time you feel anger from a comment or a situation, pause. Ask yourself whether it's truly the external event that upsets you or if something deeper is being stirred. Use anger as a mirror to recognize where personal growth is still needed. When you build your self-esteem and take ownership of your life, anger becomes unnecessary. There is no insecurity left to defend, no fear to conceal. What remains is a calm strength, a sense of self that no longer needs to react to things that don't define it. Living with purpose is equally essential. Without a clear sense of purpose, life feels empty, chaotic, and directionless. You wake up each day without a compelling reason to move forward, just going through the motions of routine. This emptiness breeds frustration. A lack of purpose turns people into reactive beings, constantly irritated, quick to anger, and always on edge. Every inconvenience feels amplified because there is no greater vision to rise above the daily frustrations. Without direction, the mind becomes cluttered with noise and disorder, and in such a state, it's easy to fall into bitterness and anger. The Stoics understood that peace of mind comes from having a purpose that aligns with our values, a reason for living that makes us feel our life has meaning. When you don't have a defined purpose, every little thing becomes a distraction. Traffic frustrates you, people's words bother you, life feels unfair. But when you're working towards something greater, these things begin to lose their power over you, not because they disappear, but because your focus shifts. Marcus Aurelius said that each of us must ask ourselves, why am I here? What truly matters to me? Once you have clarity on that, the small frustrations of life stop controlling you. You stop wasting energy reacting to every annoyance because you're now investing your energy in something meaningful. I remember a time when I felt completely directionless, trapped in a monotonous routine, doing things that brought me no fulfillment. I was irritable all the time. Every little problem felt enormous because I had no deeper reason to get out of bed in the morning. I was living on autopilot, letting circumstances dictate my emotional state. But everything changed when I discovered my purpose. I committed to creating content and sharing ideas that could genuinely help others. That gave me a sense of meaning. Suddenly, the problems that once felt unbearable became just part of the process. They no longer frustrated me. I stopped being irritated by the small things because I was focused on something larger. Anger no longer felt like a natural response because my attention was on something more important. The Stoics teach that purpose is not something we find, it's something we define. We don't wait for life to hand it to us. We create it. Epictetus said it's our responsibility to decide who we want to become and what we want to contribute. It's not about waiting for inspiration, but about taking deliberate action. Find what makes you feel alive, what gives your life depth. When you discover your purpose and commit to it wholeheartedly, your frustration begins to fade. You no longer worry about things beyond your control. You no longer seek approval or feel the need to prove yourself. You simply do what you know in your heart you must do, and that brings deep satisfaction. When you live with purpose, life stops feeling like a series of problems and begins to feel like an opportunity. You stop reacting with anger to every obstacle because you understand that every challenge is just a step on your path. Each day carries meaning. Every action contributes to something greater. And when that becomes your reality, peace arises, not because everything is perfect, but because you've chosen what matters most to you. There is no room for anger when you're busy building something meaningful. If you feel let down by life or find yourself constantly frustrated, ask yourself if you truly have a clear purpose. Are you spending your time doing something that fills you up, or are you merely passing the days without direction? The difference between a life filled with frustration and a life filled with meaning lies in that answer. Discover what drives you, what compels you to rise each day and move forward with passion. When you identify what truly motivates you, anger begins to lose its grip on your life. Because when you live with purpose, everything else fades into the background as mere noise. Harnessing the power of neuroplasticity can help rewire your emotional responses. The brain is not hardwired into fixed patterns. Neuroplasticity allows us to reshape how we react to situations that once provoked anger or frustration. The idea that we are stuck with how we are is a falsehood we tell ourselves. The truth is, the brain is flexible. Like a muscle, it can be trained and strengthened in specific areas depending on how we use it. When we habitually respond to irritation with anger, we're reinforcing that reaction, making it automatic over time. But if we begin to respond with calmness instead, we slowly reprogram our brains to adopt a new, healthier reaction. It all starts with awareness. When someone insults us, when something doesn't go our way, when we feel disrespected, our first impulse is to react in the way we always have, the way we've conditioned ourselves over the years. But the key lies in resisting that automatic response and consciously choosing a new one. By forcing ourselves to stay calm in those moments, we're paving the way for a new neural pathway to form. Initially, it feels unnatural, awkward, even fake, but with repeated effort, that new calm response begins to feel normal. Eventually, it becomes instinctual. I remember a time when my dog ruined something that was deeply important to me. My natural reaction would have been to yell, to explode in frustration, but in that moment, I made a conscious choice to do something different. I took a deep breath and reached out to pet my dog instead. It felt strange, as if I was suppressing my emotions, but in truth, I was teaching my brain a new lesson. That not every disruption requires an angry reaction. I repeated this choice again and again every time my dog did something that would have previously irritated me. Over time, something amazing happened. My natural reaction changed. The tension in my chest faded. I no longer had to fight my anger because my mind had been reconditioned. My brain had learned that these events weren't threats. They didn't require rage. Neuroplasticity reveals that we are not destined to be slaves to our emotions. We can redirect our impulses and allow calmness to become our default state. Every time we choose not to respond with anger, we strengthen the mental wiring of patience and composure. The more we practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Marcus Aurelius once said that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. This isn't just a philosophical ideal, it's a scientific truth. The brain adapts based on what we consistently practice. If we make serenity our habit, it eventually becomes our default response. This transformation isn't immediate. At first, the mind will fight to return to its familiar patterns. But if we persist, if every time we feel the surge of anger, we pause, breathe, and choose a new response, we will experience genuine change. One day you'll notice that situations which once made you furious now seem trivial. And it's not because you're bottling your feelings, it's because your brain no longer sees those situations as deserving of anger. Anger is a habit, just as calmness is. If we feed it, anger will grow stronger. But if we ignore it and instead nourish serenity, anger will weaken and eventually disappear. This isn't about pretending or suppressing how we feel. It's about retraining the mind to operate in a way that serves us, not sabotages us. If we want to become calmer, more centered, and wiser in our responses, we must commit to practicing this mindset every single day. With repetition, calmness will no longer require effort. It will simply be who we are. Love and gratitude have the power to overcome anger. Anger is a draining emotion. It wears us down and robs us of control over our minds. But two forces can dissolve it: love and gratitude. When we are caught in the grip of anger, our focus is locked on negativity, on what's wrong, on what annoys us, on what we think is unjust. But when we shift our attention to what we love and what we're grateful for, anger loses its strength. Not because the problems vanish, but because we stop feeding them with our energy. Love reconnects us with what truly matters. If we're angry with someone, we can ask ourselves, do I want to win this argument or preserve the relationship? When we truly love someone, being right becomes less important. Anger, at its core, is selfish. It seeks vengeance, validation. But love strives for understanding, for healing, for connection. Too often, we let anger guide our actions in petty conflicts, hurting those we care about most in the process. But in those moments, if we pause and remember our love for that person, everything changes. Our response shifts, not out of weakness, but out of clarity. Gratitude is another potent antidote. When we are truly grateful, anger cannot coexist. Resentment and thankfulness cannot fill the same space. If something upsets us, we can stop and do a simple exercise. Think of 3 things we are grateful for in that moment. It could be our health, a meaningful relationship, or the lesson hidden in the difficulty. This simple act redirects our thoughts, moving us out of a reactive state and restoring our sense of control. Marcus Aurelius reflected in his meditations on the fleeting nature of life. If today were your last day with someone you love, would you really waste it being angry? Gratitude reminds us that every moment is sacred and that anger only drains the time we can never get back. Years ago, I tried an experiment on myself. Every time I felt anger or frustration, instead of reacting as I normally would, I forced myself to think of something I was grateful for. At first, it felt unnatural, like I was avoiding reality, but eventually, something shifted. My brain started doing it automatically. One day, someone spoke to me with blatant disrespect, and instead of getting upset, my first thought was, I'm grateful to be healthy and to have the strength to keep going. That thought calmed me. It allowed me to respond with grace, not because the other person deserved kindness, but because I deserved peace. The Stoics understood that our emotions are not dictated by external events, but by how we choose to interpret them. If we dwell on what's wrong, on what we lack, anger grows. But if we focus on what we have, what we cherish, and what we're thankful for, anger diminishes. This isn't denial, it's mental training. It's a choice to see the world from a higher perspective. Epictetus once said the secret to happiness lies not in having more, but in wanting less. Gratitude helps us realize that we already have enough, that peace is possible even in the presence of setbacks. We can't always avoid tense moments or control how others behave, but we can decide what emotional environment we want to create in our minds. If we choose love and gratitude, anger will have no room to grow. When we lead with love, we seek to understand. When we lead with gratitude, we learn to let go. Through this daily practice, we become calmer, more focused, and less reactive. Not because the world changes, but because we've learned to see it differently. Establishing healthy boundaries is essential. When you don't set clear limits, you're allowing others to determine how they treat you. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being confrontational or rejecting people. It means clearly defining where your patience, time, and energy begin and end. When boundaries are missing, you unintentionally send the message that it's acceptable to be disrespected, to have your time disregarded, or your presence taken for granted. And when this continues, frustration builds, anger festers, and emotional burnout sets in. But setting boundaries is your responsibility. It's not up to others. You alone have the power to decide what behavior you accept and what you don't. Often, we allow certain behaviors to persist because we fear being labeled as selfish or unpleasant. Saying no feels uncomfortable because we worry about offending others or being rejected. Yet the true issue is not the act of saying no, but failing to say it when necessary. If someone constantly interrupts you at work, if a friend only contacts you when they need something, or if a family member criticizes you without cause, it's your responsibility to decide whether or not you'll accept that. Seneca once said that while we cannot control how others behave, we can control how we respond. When we tolerate inappropriate behavior without addressing it, we're effectively giving permission for it to continue. When someone crosses a line and we fail to enforce a boundary, we reinforce the very behavior that hurts us. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges to mutual respect. They are not about pushing people away, but about protecting your peace and preserving your energy. Setting them may feel difficult at first, but they are acts of self-love and emotional maturity. But when you calmly and confidently express that you do not accept such treatment, you send a strong message that you value yourself enough not to tolerate disrespect. You don't need to be aggressive or argumentative. You only need to be clear. Saying something like, "I won't accept these types of comments," or "My time matters, please respect it," or "I don't feel comfortable with that," are simple yet powerful phrases that can completely transform the tone of a relationship. I recall a period in my life when I constantly allowed myself to be interrupted, regardless of what I was doing. If someone needed my attention, I would immediately stop and respond. Initially, I thought that made me a kind and helpful person. But as time went on, I came to realize that all I was doing was allowing others to place their priorities above mine. I often felt drained and frustrated, but it wasn't truly anyone else's fault. I had never established any boundaries. Eventually, I made a decision to change. The next time someone interrupted me, I simply responded, "I'm busy right now, let's talk later." At first it was difficult, but gradually, people began to understand that my time mattered too. The most surprising part, I didn't lose any important relationships. In fact, I started to feel more respected. The Stoics understood that setting boundaries isn't an act of rejection, it's an act of self-respect. Epictetus taught that we must choose what lies within our control and what doesn't. We can't prevent others from attempting to cross our limits, but we can decide how we respond. If someone mistreats you and you remain silent, you're not practicing virtue. You're failing in your responsibility to protect your own well-being. Saying no is a courageous act, not because it's easy, but because it reflects that you honor and respect yourself. Setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. On the contrary, it helps build healthier relationships where both sides clearly understand what is acceptable. Often, people don't even realize they're crossing a line until you point it out. You can't expect others to guess what bothers you. You must tell them. And if, after you've expressed your needs, they continue to disregard them, then you have to consider whether you truly want that person in your life. Each time you choose not to set a boundary out of fear of conflict, you are accepting inner turmoil just to avoid external discomfort. You are willingly sacrificing your own peace just to dodge a difficult conversation. But avoiding the issue doesn't solve it. Learning to say no without guilt is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It's not about being stronger than others. It's about becoming stronger within yourself. Setting boundaries is not about controlling others. It's about preserving your peace and living with self-respect. Not everything deserves your attention. Each day we face provocations, minor problems, and careless remarks that try to pull us into chaos. But most of these things hold little to no real importance. We end up exhausting ourselves emotionally by reacting to what is trivial, things that will be forgotten by tomorrow. We live in a world where opinions are constantly thrown around, where criticism is common, and where small issues can seem large if we don't learn to filter what actually matters. The key to maintaining inner peace is learning that not everything happening around you deserves your energy. When something bothers you, pause and ask yourself, will this matter in a month, in a year? Most of the time, the answer will be no. Still, we often allow ourselves to be swept up in the moment, feeling compelled to respond, to defend, to react. But if we zoom out and look at life as a whole, we realize many of these things are mere distractions. Marcus Aurelius said that tranquility comes from ignoring what doesn't concern us. If someone insults you on the street, does it truly change anything in your life? If a stranger online criticizes you, does that have any real impact on who you are? Wasting energy on every small provocation only pulls us away from what truly matters. Imagine someone makes a rude comment about you. Your instinct might be to defend yourself, to prove your point. But what do you actually gain from doing so? It's unwise to invest your energy into a conflict that doesn't add value. A comment doesn't define your worth. A criticism doesn't determine your identity. If every time someone says something negative about you, you hand over your peace, you're giving emotional power to anyone who chooses to provoke you. Epictetus reminded us not to become prisoners of others' opinions. If something doesn't help you grow or meaningfully impact your life, then it likely doesn't deserve your attention. Many of the worries we carry are not even ours to begin with. We stress over what others think, over problems we can't control, over expectations that don't belong to us. We spend too much time seeking approval, worrying about what people might say, and focusing on situations that don't even affect our true selves. But when you finally understand that your energy is finite, you become more selective about what deserves your focus. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent. It means knowing how to distinguish between what truly matters and what is just noise. I remember a time when any form of criticism deeply affected me. If someone questioned my actions, I felt an urgent need to explain, to justify, to prove myself. But with time, I learned that this was a waste of energy. I began to observe before reacting, to ask myself whether the situation was truly worth it. Most of the time, I found that the best response was silence, not because I had nothing to say, but because nothing needed to be said. Not everything requires a reaction. Not every issue deserves a confrontation. Not every comment is worth your attention. Each time you choose to ignore what is irrelevant, you're protecting your inner peace. You're teaching your mind to focus on what truly matters, what helps you grow, what transforms you. The Stoics didn't aim to control the world. They aimed to master their response to it. If someone acts with hostility or attempts to provoke you, remember, you always have the power to choose whether or not to respond. Strength isn't about winning every argument. It's about choosing the battles that are actually worth engaging in. When you begin filtering what truly matters, many of your worries will naturally fade away. The energy you once spent on meaningless conflicts can now be invested in building, learning, and becoming better. You can't stop people from criticizing you. You can't control what others say or do, but you can always choose whether it's worth letting their actions affect your state of mind. In the end, true freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's refusing to be ruled by what doesn't matter. Many times, our suffering doesn't come from what actually happens, but from what we believe those events mean. We get trapped in the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, about others, about what things mean. But those stories are often not grounded in facts. They are merely beliefs we've accepted without questioning, and these beliefs can become the biggest barrier to our peace of mind. The Stoics taught that inner peace comes from being able to separate facts from our interpretations. When we don't make that distinction, we get overwhelmed by unnecessary emotions, anger, sadness, fear, because we're reacting not to reality, but to our thoughts about it. If someone tells you that you're worthless, it isn't the words themselves that hurt. It's the meaning you assign to them. The actual fact is just that a person said something, but the moment we internalize it, the moment we start thinking, maybe they're right, those words transform into a belief that burdens us for years, and yet we rarely stop to ask whether that belief is even true. We just absorb it. Epictetus warned us, it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of those events. If someone criticizes you, you have a choice, to see it as an attack or to see it as an opportunity to improve. The difference lies not in what was said, but in what you choose to believe. The human mind is skilled at crafting narratives. We tell ourselves we're not good enough, that we don't deserve happiness, that we'll never change, and we treat these thoughts as if they're absolute truths. But where do these beliefs come from? Often, they come from past experiences, from what others once said, from old failures that we've turned into permanent identities. If we once failed, we tell ourselves we are failures. If someone rejected us, we believe we are unworthy of love. But these thoughts are not absolute truths. They are merely beliefs we've built over time, often without even realizing it. I remember a period in my life when I believed I wasn't intelligent enough to achieve certain goals. There was no solid proof behind this belief, only a memory of someone making me feel inadequate, and I chose to accept that feeling as fact. Every time I encountered a difficult challenge, that belief would resurface. You can't do this. You're not capable. But one day I decided to question that voice. Where was the real evidence that I was incapable? Hadn't I learned countless things throughout my life? Hadn't I overcome other challenges before? That's when it dawned on me. This belief wasn't a fact. It was simply a narrative I kept repeating to myself. And once I understood that, I began to let it go. Letting go wasn't something that happened all at once. But each time I confronted a limiting thought, I felt a sense of empowerment returning. The Stoics practiced this kind of mental discipline. They developed the ability to examine their own thoughts and discern which ones deserved their attention. They didn't blindly accept every emotion or idea. Marcus Aurelius advised us to challenge every negative thought. Is this true? Is it really as terrible as it seems? More often than not, the answer is no. We are not as limited as we believe. We are not the labels others assign to us. We don't have to live as prisoners of these internal narratives. But to free ourselves, we first have to recognize that our beliefs are not unchangeable facts. Each time a belief about yourself feels like a limitation, ask whether it's truly based on evidence or if it's something you've accepted without questioning. If you can replace it with a belief that reflects reality more accurately, you've already taken a significant step toward emotional liberation. The act of separating fact from belief is how we break free from the mental cages we've built. It's how we stop reacting on autopilot and begin to live with real clarity. When we see the world without the distortions created by our unexamined beliefs, we uncover a sense of peace that has always existed within us, just waiting to be noticed. Creating a healthy self-image is essential. Your view of yourself should never hinge on other people's opinions. If you live through the eyes of others, you'll constantly be chasing approval, and that's a kind of emotional captivity. One day you'll feel unstoppable because someone complimented you, and the next day a simple criticism will make you crumble. That kind of instability stems from building your sense of worth on things you can't control. But when your self-worth comes from self-awareness and acceptance, no one can take your peace away. The Stoics understood that true strength is born from within. They believed that only when we stop relying on external validation can we begin to experience true freedom. The real issue arises when our self-image is shaped by beliefs that were imposed on us during childhood. We absorb opinions, labels, and judgments from others, often without ever questioning them. If someone called us shy, we believed it. If we were labeled failures, we internalized it. But how much of that is genuinely accurate? How much of who we think we are is based on ideas we never stop to examine? Marcus Aurelius reminded us to ask whether the things we believe about ourselves are genuinely true, or just stories we keep repeating in our minds. The key lies in self-knowledge, observing ourselves without filters, illusions, or self-deception. It means recognizing our strengths and weaknesses, not to feel complacent, but to be honest with ourselves. When someone criticizes you, the natural instinct is to defend yourself, to feel hurt, or to try to prove them wrong. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused and reflected? If someone accuses you of being selfish rather than responding with anger, ask yourself, is this true? Do I really act that way? If the answer is yes, then you've been given an opportunity to grow. If the answer is no, then the criticism holds no weight, and you can move on without being affected. Epictetus taught that we shouldn't worry about what people say about us, only whether what they say is true. It's not the criticism itself that hurts us, but our interpretation of it. If your self-image is rooted in truth and strength, the words of others lose their power. For years, I struggled with trying to fit in, striving to be accepted based on how others perceived me. I tried to meet their expectations, molding myself into what I thought they wanted, but all it did was pull me further away from who I truly was. I made decisions based not on my desires, but on what I believed would gain approval. That constant effort to please left me exhausted, because it was never enough. There was always another opinion to satisfy, another standard to meet. Everything changed when I finally realized I could never control what others thought of me. I stopped trying to belong in spaces that didn't reflect my truth, and began asking myself, who am I really? What do I want for my life? As I explored these questions, the need for external validation gradually disappeared. Self-acceptance doesn't mean giving up or settling for less. It's not about resigning yourself to who you are without striving to grow. It's about recognizing your intrinsic worth, independent of outside influences. When you fully accept who you are, flaws and all, successes and failures, you free yourself from the fear of judgment. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer seek affirmation because you already know your value. And the most empowering part is this: when you stop chasing approval, you become more authentic. The people who truly matter will respect you for being yourself, not for who you pretend to be. Emotional freedom begins when you stop living according to other people's expectations and start living in alignment with your own truth. This doesn't mean ignoring every external opinion. It means learning to discern what truly matters. If you know who you are, if you're clear about your values and purpose, criticism loses its power over you. You begin to live with confidence and calm, no longer driven by the need to impress anyone, not because you're perfect, but because you no longer require the world's validation to feel worthy. And in that clarity, you discover a peace that's always been within you. The idea of good and bad people is a false dichotomy. No one is entirely good or entirely bad. Every human being is a complex mix of strengths and flaws, moments of wisdom and episodes of weakness. But our minds have a tendency to simplify. We label people to make sense of them, to categorize them based on how they make us feel or how they behave in specific situations. This habit of labeling is not only inaccurate, but it also blinds us to the full reality of a person's character. When we reduce someone to a single label, we lose the ability to see them clearly. A person's actions may be generous or selfish, kind or unfair, but these behaviors do not define the whole of who they are. Someone who acts cruelly today may show incredible compassion tomorrow. A person who has made serious mistakes may also do immense good. Marcus Aurelius urged us to see people for what they truly are, fallible human beings shaped by their experiences, their fears, and their past. No one is entirely one thing. No one should be judged solely by their best or worst moment. Understanding this can help free us from the emotional burden of judgment. When someone hurts us, our first reaction is to label them as cruel or unjust and to wish for retribution. But how often do we pause to consider what may have driven their behavior? This isn't about excusing harm, but about recognizing that most people don't act out of pure malice. They act from confusion, fear, or pain. Epictetus taught that people act based on the limits of their knowledge and understanding. Someone who disrespects others might simply not know any better way to interact. Someone who betrays might be acting out of a lifelong fear of abandonment. That doesn't mean we have to accept being treated poorly, but it does mean we don't have to take it personally. People respond to their environments, their upbringing, and the emotional tools they've been given. A person can be loving to their family and ruthless in their career. They can be kind to friends and indifferent to strangers. These contradictions don't make them evil, they make them human. We've all had moments we regret, times we've spoken out of anger, acted selfishly, or made choices we wish we could take back. If we want to be understood and forgiven for those moments, then we must offer that same understanding to others. When we stop labeling people as simply good or bad, our relationships improve. We become less reactive, less frustrated with the flaws of others, because we understand that everyone is walking their own path of growth. We become more patient, more balanced, and know This doesn't mean tolerating abuse or mistreatment. It means seeing others as they truly are, complex, evolving, and human. Marcus Aurelius once said that when someone behaves poorly, we should ask ourselves, did we truly expect anything different? People act in accordance with what they've learned and with the limitations of their own minds. If we expect perfection from others, we will constantly find ourselves disappointed. Letting go of that expectation frees us. It liberates our hearts from the need to punish, from bitterness, from the urge to divide the world into allies and enemies. We grow in objectivity, serenity, and the ability to deal with conflict with a clear mind. True strength doesn't lie in harsh judgment of others, but in understanding that all of us are on the same path, just at different points. We are each here to learn, to grow, and to evolve. Once you understand this deeply, you stop exhausting yourself over the actions of others and begin to focus on the only thing you truly have control over, your own inner development. Now we arrive at evolution number 15, the RIN process for managing anger. Anger is a powerful emotion. It can feel like an unstoppable fire when it surges within us, but anger does not have to dominate you. If handled wisely, it can be transformed from a destructive force into a catalyst for growth. The RIN process is a method that helps you work with your anger mindfully. Rather than suppressing it or lashing out impulsively, you use the energy of anger in a conscious, reflective way. This approach aligns closely with how the Stoics lived, even though they didn't give it a formal name. Through this process, we learn to observe our anger without becoming consumed by it. We begin to understand where it comes from and how to channel it in a healthy direction. The first step is simply to acknowledge that anger is present. Don't deny it. Don't bury it. Recognize it. Often we react in anger automatically, almost as if on autopilot. We let the emotion take over without stopping to notice what's truly going on inside us. But if, in the moment of anger, you can pause and say, "I'm feeling angry right now," you create a crucial distance between yourself and the emotion. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of observing our emotions as if they were external forces. When you learn to see your anger not as your identity, but as a fleeting emotional state, you've already begun to gain power over it. The second step is to allow the anger to exist without acting on it. This is where many stumble. The instinct to react, to defend, to attack, to explode is often overwhelming. But the emotion itself is not the problem. The problem is what we do with it. The Stoics taught that emotions should not be denied, but lived through with awareness. If you feel the anger building, don't resist it. Just observe it. Stay present. Breathe. Notice the energy in your body, but remain conscious. Seneca wisely said that the initial shock of anger is unavoidable, but everything after that is your choice. If you can stay with the emotion without letting it drive your behavior, you are already ahead. The third step involves looking deeper into the root of the anger. Instead of remaining stuck at the surface, ask yourself what is really behind the emotion. Often, anger is not the core issue. It's a signal pointing to something more profound. It may be fear, insecurity, disappointment, or unresolved pain. Epictetus reminded us that it's not the events themselves that upset us, but our interpretations of them. If someone interrupts you during a conversation and you feel a flash of anger, maybe it's not the interruption itself, but the belief that you are being disrespected or undervalued. Once you uncover the real issue beneath the anger, its intensity fades because you realize it has more to do with your internal world than the external event. The final step is to nourish the part of you that needs healing. Rather than criticizing yourself for feeling anger, practice self-compassion. This doesn't mean you're justifying your anger. It means you're honoring the emotional wound that triggered it. Maybe you've been suppressing certain feelings. Maybe there's an old belief shaping how you react. Or maybe you just need to give yourself the space to feel and process. Marcus Aurelius taught that we should treat ourselves with the same patience and compassion we extend to others. You may not be able to eliminate anger entirely, but you can absolutely choose how to respond to it. With wisdom and self-awareness, you stop being a prisoner to your emotions. As you practice this process, you'll find that anger loses its grip on you. This doesn't mean you'll never feel it again, but when you do, you'll know how to handle it without sacrificing your peace or damaging your relationships. You'll come to understand that anger is just an emotion, a temporary wave, not a command you must obey. Instead of reacting, you will respond with reflection. And in that space between feeling and action, you will discover true emotional freedom. If this message speaks to you, head to the comments and write, "Today, my best version begins. I am Stoic." By doing this, you affirm your intention to live with greater calm, wisdom, and discipline. Don't let your emotions rule your life. Master them and take control of your destiny. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship that slowly chips away at your peace, your confidence, and your sense of self-worth? In today's video, we're going to uncover 9 unmistakable signs that it may be time to cut ties completely, even if that person is someone close to you, like a friend or a family member. Picture this. Is there someone in your life who consistently makes you feel guilty, judged, or as though your value depends solely on how much you please them? As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Setting boundaries and creating distance isn't selfish. It's a vital act of self-respect and protection for your inner peace. This video is designed to help you not only identify these toxic patterns, but also to equip you with the tools and confidence to confront them without guilt and without second-guessing yourself. Make sure to stay with me until the very end, because I'll be revealing one of the most subtle yet widespread signs of a damaging relationship, one that many people overlook, and I'll share how you can liberate yourself from it for good. Before we dive in, if you find these insights valuable, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any future content that empowers your spirit and transforms your relationships for the better. Now, let's begin this important journey of reclaiming your freedom, your dignity, and the peace of mind you truly deserve. First, avoid people who are unwilling to spend money. Have you ever encountered someone whose first comment to you always seems to revolve around not having enough money? At first, it's easy to feel sympathy, especially if you believe they're going through a tough time. But strangely, these individuals often enjoy a fairly comfortable lifestyle, taking trips, indulging in hobbies, and spending on their own pleasures. Yet, when it comes to you or any shared commitment, they suddenly claim financial limitations to avoid responsibility or avoid giving back. This isn't about struggling with poverty. It's about intentional behavior. If you've experienced this, pause and reflect. This is not a sign of a balanced or authentic connection. I once had a friend just like this. Every time we planned an activity together, he would find a reason related to money to back out. but I noticed that he had no problem spending on expensive clothes or impressing others. One day, when he backed out of a trip we had both been excited about, I realized the issue wasn't money. It was the lack of value he placed on our time together. That was the turning point for me. I understood then that such relationships cannot thrive because they aren't built on fairness or genuine care. Whether it's with friends, family members, or romantic partners, every healthy relationship is rooted in mutual giving and shared respect. If you constantly find yourself giving while the other person continually takes, with no sign of effort to reciprocate, then you're carrying the weight of an unbalanced and emotionally draining connection. Always remember, fulfilling relationships are based on mutual respect, equality, and heartfelt care. If someone only sees you as a resource to be used rather than a person to be valued, don't hesitate to establish firm boundaries or even step away entirely. Your life deserves to be surrounded by connections that offer joy, empathy, and sincere appreciation. Second, avoid people who frequently argue and expect you to take sides. Have you ever felt trapped in a relationship where every conversation seems to spiral into conflict? That's exactly what it feels like to deal with someone who constantly seeks out arguments. These individuals don't just stir up unnecessary drama, they also pull you into it, forcing you to choose a side in their personal battles. They bring turbulence into every interaction, draining not just their own energy, but also yours. I once had a friend who outwardly appeared confident, but whenever a disagreement came up, even over something small, he'd immediately escalate it into a full-blown argument. One time, during a casual gathering with friends while we were discussing travel plans, a minor difference of opinion arose. He suddenly turned to me and demanded that I back him up in front of everyone. That experience changed our friendship forever. I realized then that anyone who thrives on conflict and pressures others to align with them makes it impossible to maintain a peaceful or balanced relationship. Constant arguing doesn't indicate strength or intelligence. It's often a symptom of emotional immaturity and insecurity. People who argue for the sake of control or validation sabotage not only their relationships, but also their own personal development. A truly wise person doesn't feel the need to win every disagreement. They prioritize peace, understanding, and resolution. If you find yourself caught in endless cycles of conflict or regularly dragged into disputes that aren't yours to fight, take a moment to reflect. Cultivating calmness in your life protects your relationships and shields your inner peace. In the end, the most valuable treasures in life are not found in drama or debate, but in peaceful connections and a quiet, steady mind. Third, avoid people who dismiss or minimize the worries of others. In the journey of life, each of us carries our own distinct set of burdens, no two alike. The worries we bear, the joys we experience, and the sorrows we endure cannot be compared on any universal scale. Yet one of the most disheartening experiences in life is when we open up about our struggles, only to be met with people who not only downplay our pain, but also amplify their own as if theirs are more significant. This kind of reaction isn't just inconsiderate. It undermines trust and slowly eats away at the very foundation of any relationship. I remember a time when I shared with a longtime friend how overwhelmed I felt trying to balance work while caring for my aging parents. Rather than offering a moment of empathy or even a listening ear, he brushed aside my concerns and quickly shifted the conversation to talk about how stressed he was at work, as if my reality was invisible. That moment didn't just leave me disappointed, it left a deep, emotional bruise. It taught me something crucial. Meaningful relationships can only thrive when both people make an effort to genuinely listen and value each other's challenges as much as they'd like their own to be acknowledged. True respect isn't found in grand, sweeping gestures. It lives in the smallest actions, thanking someone sincerely for their help or offering a heartfelt apology when you've caused pain. These simple words, when spoken with sincerity, go far beyond social niceties. They form the bedrock of strong and lasting human connections. It's important to step away from people who lack this kind of gratitude. If someone cannot celebrate your wins or empathize with your struggles, if they find amusement in your pain, that reveals not only a lack of compassion, but a deep, unsettling indifference. We may not have control over how others behave, but we do have control over who we allow into our inner circle. Choose relationships rooted in mutual respect, kindness, and sincerity. Keep company with those who rejoice in your happiness, comfort you in your grief, and genuinely wish you well. Taking joy in someone else's suffering doesn't just hurt them, it chips away at your own humanity. Living with empathy and compassion won't just help you build meaningful relationships, it will lead you to a life full of purpose and depth, a life truly worth living. Equally important is to steer clear of individuals who try to impose their religious or political beliefs on you. No two people are exactly the same, and that diversity is part of what makes human relationships so rich and meaningful. Real connection is not about forcing others to adopt your worldview, but about recognizing and appreciating differences while building common ground from them. Still, some people feel compelled to constantly push their beliefs on others, be it spiritual, ideological, or political. And this kind of behavior is not only draining, it can fracture relationships beyond repair. I once had a close friend who, with every conversation, felt the need to convince me that his way of life was the only right one. At first, I tried to engage in thoughtful discussions and defended my own beliefs, hoping for mutual understanding. But after each interaction, I found myself emotionally exhausted. Nothing changed. No progress was made. The debates became repetitive, more about ego than insight, and I eventually realized that these exchanges were only driving a wedge between us. Arguments rooted in the need to be right often do nothing but create distance and resentment. Even when you win such an argument, the sense of victory is fleeting and usually comes at the cost of another person's dignity. The most damaging consequence isn't the disagreement itself, but the subtle emotional wounds and the growing disconnect it causes. Truly wise individuals don't argue simply to be right. They listen, they empathize, and they understand when it's best to step back. Real success in a relationship isn't found in overpowering the other person's views. It's found in conquering your own pride to nurture mutual respect and harmony. Letting go of the need to always be right doesn't make you weak. It makes you peaceful. That's a reward no argument can ever give. If you've stayed with me this far, leave a comment below saying peacefulness, so I know you're on this journey with me. Together, let's keep learning, growing, and creating lives filled with meaning and emotional clarity. Finally, recognize when a friendship starts making you feel uneasy or drained. If being around someone consistently leaves you feeling distressed, it's time to reconsider that relationship. Sometimes the people who once brought you joy, laughter, and unforgettable memories begin to feel distant, not necessarily because you or they did something wrong, but simply because life has taken you both in different directions. Growth changes us. As we evolve, so do our interests, values, and perspectives. There was a story a colleague once shared about his childhood friend. They had spent countless cherished moments together, from going to the movies and playing sports to dreaming about their future. But over time, something shifted. Conversations began to feel forced. Meetings became more of a chore than a joy. What once flowed effortlessly now felt strained. That's not necessarily a tragedy. It's a natural part of life's rhythm. Not all relationships are meant to last forever. Some serve a beautiful purpose for a time and then quietly fade as we grow. Recognizing this isn't an act of betrayal. It's an act of self-respect. When a connection no longer brings peace, but instead brings anxiety or sadness, it's okay to let it go. Honor the good memories, but protect your present peace. Life is too short to keep holding on to relationships that no longer nourish your soul. I remember a story shared by a colleague. He spoke of a childhood friend, someone with whom he had created countless unforgettable memories, going to the movies together, playing sports, and imagining the futures they would one day build. But as time went on, life pulled them in different directions. One moved away to a new city, building a career and starting a family, while the other remained in their hometown, living a quieter, simpler life. Whenever they managed to reconnect, it just didn't feel the same. Their conversations became awkward, filled with polite small talk and a subtle undercurrent of unfamiliarity. My colleague admitted that he initially put in a lot of effort to keep the friendship alive, but the more he tried, the more he began to see that they had changed so much that the closeness they once had was no longer there. Eventually, he chose to step back, not because he stopped caring, but because he realized that letting go was the only respectful way to acknowledge the changes both of them had gone through. Relationships, he said, are like a dance. Both people need to move in sync for the connection to feel right. When the rhythm falls out of harmony, both dancers feel uncomfortable and tired. Rather than placing blame on himself or his friend, he chose to accept what had changed. Sometimes, stepping back is the wisest and kindest choice. It doesn't mean erasing someone from your story. It means allowing space for both people to continue growing, even if it's apart. A gentle goodbye can often be more healing than trying to force a bond that no longer fits. Life is a constant state of change, and relationships reflect that too. The key lies in knowing when to hold on and when it's time to move forward. Treasure the beautiful moments you've shared, but don't be afraid to let that relationship become a cherished memory. Sometimes, letting go isn't just an act of compassion for someone else, it's a sign of self-respect. There's also wisdom in steering clear of those who endlessly complain about themselves. Have you ever felt like an emotional trash can, the kind of person others come to just to unload all their sadness, frustrations, and constant negativity? Everyone needs someone to lean on now and then. We all go through difficult seasons. But there's a big difference between sharing from a place of mutual empathy and simply dumping emotions without care. I once had a friend named Sarah, a former colleague who I was once very close to. During a time when my mother became critically ill, I was overwhelmed, juggling the demands of work while being her primary caregiver. It was one of the most emotionally and physically exhausting times in my life. Yet Sarah came to me almost daily, not to offer comfort or check in on me, but to complain. She went on and on about how much she hated her job, how her boss treated her poorly, how her husband never helped her at home. And, despite my own state of distress, she never once asked how I was holding up. I tried gently to shift the conversation and express some of what I was going through, but she always found a way to redirect things back to herself. Each time I interacted with her, I walked away feeling emotionally depleted, and at times even guilty that I couldn't be more available for her. The final straw came shortly after my mother had undergone major surgery. Sarah called me, not to ask how things went, but to complain that I hadn't replied to her messages quickly enough. That was the moment I realized something had to change. I told her honestly, "Sarah, I can't do this anymore. I have too much on my plate, and I need the people around me to understand that and offer some support." There was a long silence. After that, the distance between us grew naturally. It hurt, but I knew it was necessary to protect my own well-being. Not every complaint needs to be voiced to others, and no one should be treated as an emotional dumping ground. If someone isn't truly looking for support or resolution, but merely offloading their pain onto you, it's okay to set boundaries. Learn to listen with intention, not obligation. Make room in your life for people who see your heart, not just your ears. True connection is built on mutual care, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to stop expecting others to be more than they are and start being gentler with yourself. Another type of person to avoid is someone who treats promises casually or breaks them without a second thought. Have you ever waited for someone who never arrived, offering only a weak excuse or no explanation at all? That moment when you realize you're not a priority to someone stings deeply. A promise isn't just words. It's a sign of respect, trust, and commitment. What's truly painful is when someone not only fails to follow through, but also seems to forget they ever made a commitment in the first place. That kind of carelessness doesn't just chip away at trust. It makes you feel like an afterthought, as though your time and feelings don't matter. I remember a time when I was sitting at my favorite coffee shop, waiting for a friend we had planned to meet. At first, I assumed she was simply delayed by traffic or caught up with something urgent. But after waiting for an entire hour, I finally received a message from her. "Totally forgot we had plans today, sorry." That simple message hit harder than she might have realized. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened, and in that moment, I had to face the truth. Continuing to tolerate this behavior was only hurting me. I knew she wasn't intentionally trying to cause harm, but her lack of attention, her failure to honor her word, said more than any apology ever could. When a relationship starts feeling like a constant emotional weight, when respect and mutual commitment are no longer present, it's a sign that it's time to take a hard look at what that connection truly brings into your life. Self-respect sometimes requires letting go of relationships that no longer add value or nourishment to your well-being. Healthy relationships are not built on empty promises or casual indifference. Listen closely to your emotions. They often whisper the truth before your mind catches up. You deserve to be in relationships where your presence is appreciated, where both sides make the effort to uplift one another. If someone consistently fails to meet that standard, don't be afraid to walk away. Every time you say no to people who don't value or respect you, you're actually opening the door for healthier, more fulfilling relationships to enter. Never forget, you are not just worthy of love, but you are also entitled to respect, not just in words, but through genuine actions. Avoid people who always bring up the same worries. Have you ever noticed how, when some people express their concerns to you, it doesn't seem like they're really seeking a solution? Instead, they just want temporary comfort, a moment of relief from their own mental chaos. This isn't necessarily wrong. The need to share and feel understood is deeply human. But if you find yourself stuck in conversations with someone who keeps repeating the same complaints, never taking any steps toward change, or even brushing off your well-intentioned advice, then it may be time to consider what that pattern is doing to both of you. There was a time when I had a former colleague who often approached me just to vent about work. At first, I thought she simply needed a safe space to air out her frustrations, so I listened patiently and even went out of my way to offer clear, practical suggestions to help her make things better. But again and again, she dismissed the advice and circled right back to the same complaints in every single conversation. Over time, it became clear she wasn't truly interested in changing her situation. She only wanted someone to echo her worries, not challenge her to rise above them. Eventually, I took a different approach. I gently told her that I valued our connection, but I was starting to feel like we were stuck in an endless loop. I told her, "If you genuinely want to make things better, I'm here for you. But that first step has to come from you." She didn't respond well. Still, deep down, I knew I had done the right thing. Listening to others is a powerful expression of compassion. But when it's done without any movement toward resolution, it slowly depletes the emotional energy of everyone involved. If you truly care for someone, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to speak truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Real friendships aren't built on surface-level comfort. They're grounded in honest support and mutual growth. Remember, kindness isn't just about being a soft shoulder. It's also about helping someone confront their own barriers, even when it means being firm. Avoid people who boast excessively. You've probably encountered someone who, no matter the topic, finds a way to steer the conversation back to their past accomplishments. They talk about their former successes like they're the only parts of their life that matter, as if those moments are their entire identity. At first, it may seem impressive, even inspiring, but over time, you begin to see through it. These stories aren't just tales of pride, they're often a shield, hiding an inner emptiness or a lack of purpose in the present. I once knew a man who never missed an opportunity to talk about the prestigious awards he had won years ago. He would repeat every detail of his achievements with so much flair. But when it came to discussing his current life, he would always dodge the conversation or change the subject. It became clear he was stuck in a time when he felt most valuable, clinging to his old glory as if it were the only thing keeping him afloat. What saddened me the most was that instead of inspiring admiration, his behavior started pushing people away. It's important to understand that constantly reliving past victories doesn't enhance how others see you. In fact, it can have the opposite effect, making those around you feel unseen or less significant. A person who is truly confident and content doesn't need to advertise their achievements. Their presence speaks for itself, grounded in the now, not shackled to the past. Let your present life, your actions, your attitude, your growth, be the true reflection of your worth. Humility not only makes you more relatable, but also builds deeper, more authentic relationships based on mutual respect and real connection. As the old saying goes, silence is golden, and those who understand its power often turn out to be the ones most deeply respected. I'd love to hear about your journey, your victories, your struggles, and how you've grown through them. Please hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and leave a comment below. Share your story, your strength, or just write peacefulness to let us know you made it through this reflection. Your engagement is what keeps this community thriving, a place where we grow together, learn from one another, and discover the art of transforming every challenge into an opportunity. I've also linked 2 more videos here, so feel free to keep watching and stay on the path of personal growth and empowerment. Have you ever felt like you were trapped in invisible chains, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, all because of emotional attachment? Imagine the sense of liberation that comes with breaking free from those chains, walking through life with lightness and clarity, focused only on what truly matters. In today's video, we'll discover how to turn attachment into strength and freedom, guided by the enduring wisdom of ancient Stoic philosophers. Prepare yourself for a transformative journey, one that changes how you perceive the world and your emotions. Together, we'll delve into the teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, learning the delicate art of letting go with balance, presence, and serenity. If you're ready to take that first courageous step toward a more centered and fulfilling life, you're in the right place. So let's begin. Let's begin with detachment in action. Real detachment starts not in theory but in practice. To truly let go of past experiences, you must be genuinely willing to release them. That includes past relationships that still take up space in your heart and mind. It's like holding tightly to a rope until your hands ache, yet you're afraid to loosen your grip because you're unsure of what lies on the other side. But here's the truth. Letting go doesn't always mean falling. Sometimes it means your hands are finally free to reach for something far better. I learned this the hard way when I clung to a comfortable relationship simply because it felt safe. What I didn't realize at the time was that my attachment was closing doors to the greater joy and fulfillment that was already knocking. Here's another truth worth remembering. The fear of missing out is a trap. It's like scrolling through everyone else's highlight reels on social media, convincing yourself that you're missing out on life. But that's not real life. It's a carefully edited version designed to show perfect moments. The moment you stop obsessively watching other people's stories and start fully living your own, the fear of missing out begins to lose its grip. You don't need to know every detail of someone else's life to feel fulfilled. Being present in your own life and creating moments that matter to you, those are the things that truly count. The attachment to a false image of happiness can make detachment seem almost impossible. When you constantly compare yourself to others who appear to be living their best lives, it can feel like you're falling behind or that you'll never achieve what they have. But remember this, the grass only seems greener from a distance. That illusion of perfection in someone else's life can steal the joy from your own. It's like running endlessly on a treadmill, chasing a hologram. No matter how fast you go, you'll never reach it, because it isn't real. Detachment doesn't mean you're giving up on happiness. It means you're redefining what happiness means to you. To emotionally detach, embrace the Stoic principle of focusing only on what is within your control, your thoughts, your actions, and your personal growth. It's a powerful realization that no one's opinion, no past relationship, and no perfectly filtered image on social media has the authority to define your worth or your happiness. That awareness becomes your armor. It allows you to move forward without unnecessary emotional baggage, ready to experience life in its raw and unpredictable beauty, and open to the genuine and meaningful connections waiting ahead. So remember, letting go is not an ending. It's a bold and liberating step toward the life you truly deserve. Now let's explore the power of detachment. Why is detachment so vital to our inner peace and strength? When we become overly attached to people or situations, we unintentionally surrender control of our emotions to them. It's like handing someone else the remote control to your feelings, allowing them to flip through the emotional channels of your life at will. This kind of power over us can influence our happiness, sadness, and even lead us to make choices we would never consider in a more calm and balanced state of mind. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means giving the appropriate weight to things that lie beyond your control. Think of your emotions as a ship anchored in harbor. If you're bound by too many anchors, you'll never sail freely across the ocean of life. But the moment you begin lifting those anchors, one by one, you open yourself to new adventures, possibilities, and horizons. Stoicism teaches us to release those unnecessary anchors and navigate life with confidence and inner peace. Let's be practical. Begin by identifying who or what you are overly attached to. Then ask yourself why. Are you seeking validation? Are you afraid of being alone? Or is it something deeper? Understanding the root of your attachment is the first step in regaining control of your life and emotions. Now start investing your energy in activities that bring you true purpose and fulfillment. Practice gratitude. Reflect on your priorities. Meditate on what really matters. Always remember that true growth comes from within. When you focus on your own development and inner well-being, the need for external approval naturally starts to fade. Detachment allows you to truly value your own progress and to find joy in your personal journey. Achievements begin to feel more fulfilling when we learn to find joy in the small, quiet moments. Over time, this mindset builds resilience, enabling us to face life's challenges with calm and confidence. Trusting in this journey of emotional detachment is not a one-time decision. It's an ongoing process. But with each emotional anchor we release, we move a step closer to freedom. Freedom from emotional dependence and toward true inner peace. Navigate the vast ocean of life with courage, knowing that you hold the power to shape your own destiny. Understanding attachment is crucial. When we become deeply attached to something, it's often our ego that's leading the way. At our core, however, we are beings made of love. Think about a newborn baby, pure, joyful, and untainted by the complexities of ego. But as we grow older, the ego begins to assert itself, filling our lives with attachments. These attachments, whether to people, outcomes, or ideals, can blur our judgment and pull us away from our essence, which is rooted in love. It's important to remember that attachment is an ego-driven game, the very opposite of love and inner wholeness. When we step back and look at our desires and relationships through this lens, we start to recognize the unnecessary weight they carry. Now picture a life lived from a space of love rather than ego, a life where you are not desperately clinging to outcomes, to people, or to a sense of status. Living from love allows you to believe in abundance. It helps you trust that what is meant for you will naturally make its way into your life. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about having a deep-rooted belief in your own worth and abilities. This belief gives you the strength to let go, to see attachments for what they are, anchors that limit your potential and keep you from fully exploring the vastness of who you truly are. Begin by recognizing these anchors. See that the fear keeping you tied to them often stems from your ego's craving for safety and external validation. Then shift your perspective. Understand that your worth is not connected to any specific attachment. At your core, you are enough. This realization doesn't happen instantly. It requires ongoing effort, a conscious and deliberate practice of choosing inner peace over the need for approval. Embrace the idea of abundance. When you release the fear of losing something or someone, the universe has a way of filling your life with even greater gifts than those you let go of. Detachment does not mean that you stop caring. It means that you understand on a deeper level. It means staying true to your essence and allowing love, not fear, to guide you. The path to detachment is one of transformation. It's about peeling away the ego to uncover the resilient, loving soul that exists within. It's about moving through life with lightness, free from the emotional burdens of attachment and ready to welcome new blessings with open arms and an open heart. The illusion of the ego is powerful. Often, our ego convinces us that we're not enough or that others have something we lack. It leads us to believe the grass is greener on the other side, causing us to become emotionally dependent on others in our search for validation. This illusion can push us to idolize others, placing them on pedestals as if they possess something magical or unattainable. Yet in life's most honest moments, we are reminded that no one has a golden ticket. We are all equally vulnerable and human. It's essential to confront this illusion and see it for what it really is, a mirage. Don't allow it to warp your view of yourself or those around you. Let's reflect on self-confidence and inner healing for a moment. Reminding yourself that you are amazing, special, and unique is not arrogance. It's a healthy practice that nurtures self-worth and builds emotional strength. But this mindset should never lead you to see others as lesser or separate from yourself. It's not about comparison. It's about acknowledging that while our paths may differ, none is superior to the other. We are all threads woven into the same great tapestry of life, each one meaningful in its own way. When it comes to attachment, especially in relationships, it's easy to fall into the mindset of scarcity, the fear of losing someone who feels irreplaceable. This fear is directly fueled by the ego, which feeds us narratives of lack and limitation. In truth, emotional detachment does not mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means embracing the abundance of life and recognizing your own boundless capacity to love. It's about understanding that even if someone holds a special place in your heart, your sense of wholeness is not dependent on their presence. This realization brings freedom. It allows you to love more deeply, without fear, without clinging, and without desperation. It's a shift from attachment to appreciation. In harmony with Stoic philosophy, it is helpful to view everyone, including yourself, through a lens of equality. We all play roles in each other's lives, but no role is indispensable. Just as others impact our journey, we too contribute to theirs. But in the end, no one person holds the key to our inner peace. When we internalize this truth, we develop a deeper emotional strength, one that equips us to face life's uncertainties with grace. The Stoics taught us to focus on what lies within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our will. By applying this mindset to our relationships and our attachments, we discover a path that leads to true peace and unwavering resilience. Let go of the illusions your ego creates and allow yourself to live from a place of clarity, love, and self-empowerment. This path connects deeply to the fifth way to happiness, a journey inward, asking a powerful question: where does true happiness come from? This question, when genuinely explored, can guide us away from unnecessary attachments and lead us into a space of emotional freedom. Understanding this idea is especially vital when we are faced with the difficulty of letting go of someone we once held dear. Letting go is not a moment, but a process, one that requires us to ground ourselves in the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. Stoicism doesn't teach us to sever ties out of bitterness or indifference. Instead, it calls us to realize that the most meaningful companionship we'll ever have is the one we cultivate with ourselves. Our true worth is not given to us by others. It is formed within through character and wisdom. The way we treat others reflects that inner foundation. It's easy to fall into the belief that our happiness is tethered to the presence of another person in our lives. We think our value rises with their approval and diminishes with their neglect. But this way of thinking binds us, shrinking our vast potential down to someone else's choices. It's like a bird forgetting its wings, believing it needs permission to fly. Now, imagine realizing that the sky has always been open. You were always meant to spread your wings on your own terms. This kind of self-sufficiency is deeply freeing. It teaches us that our worth doesn't rise or fall with the presence, absence, or opinions of others. Emotional detachment, then, isn't about pushing people away. It's about moving closer to ourselves. It's about redirecting our energy to personal growth, to becoming the fullest version of who we're meant to be. In doing so, we lift the weight of dependency. Think of it like growing a garden. You don't beg one flower to bloom, you nourish the soil, water the plants, and trust the natural process. By nurturing ourselves, we cultivate a garden that thrives, regardless of who enters or admires it. That inner cultivation becomes a resilient, independent, and deeply rewarding source of happiness. So, how do we walk this emotional path of detachment? It begins with the realization that you are whole, with or without someone's validation. Your journey is about exploring the vast landscape of your own inner sky. Learn to fall in love with the freedom that comes from flying solo. When you embrace the wisdom of Stoicism, you learn to focus only on what lies within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your growth. This doesn't mean closing off your heart or rejecting love and connection. It means emotionally grounding yourself in the stability of your own being. Remember, your self-worth isn't some incomplete puzzle waiting for someone else's piece. It's a masterpiece, already whole, yet open to receiving more beauty from the world around it. Let this be your empowering reminder. You've come this far, and that alone proves your courage and determination. The path of detachment is one of transformation, and with every step you reveal the depth of your inner strength. Each act of letting go is not a loss, it is a gain, a testimony to your ability to grow, to rise, and to evolve into your highest self. Never forget, you are the anchor of your own life. No one else holds the reins to your emotions or your destiny. By releasing attachments that no longer serve you, you open the door to fresh possibilities, new adventures, and an inner peace that few ever experience. You are worthy of a life filled with joy, purpose, and meaningful connection. When you apply these Stoic principles and embrace detachment, you are not just transforming your own experience, you are becoming a beacon for others. Your journey inspires those around you to walk their own path of growth. Never underestimate the influence you carry. You are wise, you are resilient, you are filled with limitless potential. Continue forward with confidence, knowing that true happiness and freedom are always within reach. If this message resonated with you, please support this journey. Like the video, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content, and share this with those who may benefit from these powerful insights. We'd love to hear from you. Share your reflections and personal takeaways on emotional detachment in the comments below. Show your commitment to this path of growth by commenting with the phrase, "I'm ready to navigate freely." Your voice matters. Your journey matters. Let's keep creating content that empowers, heals, and uplifts. And always remember, real transformation begins within. Together, let's continue growing, step by step. Everything you desire is already waiting within you. You carry an unshakable spirit and a force that cannot be broken. Never stop believing in your power and your worth. Until next time, stay strong, stay centered, and keep shining your light.